Hello and welcome to Flix and Chill with me, Luke. This today, this day or today, we have a very special guest, and Robert is decided to join us. So, Robert, please take it and introduce yourself as briefly as you want.
Uh, as not as briefly as I can. You want to hear from me, don't you?
Yes, let's
Okay.
go.
Yeah, I'm Robert. I'm my main thing, I guess, is that I'm the managing editor at SifPop, sifpop.com, where Luke, you write quite often.
Hmm.
Um, that's how we met and how we set up this meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I I like movies. I like sports. I like talking to people about those things.
Hmm.
So that's basically the very brief summary of who I am and why you might want to talk to me on this podcast.
All right. Well, that's all I'm asking for, isn't it? And also, I just appreciate that you said, "Oh, I'm also like writing for Sitwell," as I'm like, I still yet to write like a proper full review. I'm quite
Have you not
active
done a
on.
full one?
No, not yet. And at this point, I'll say this. At this point, it's almost a challenge for me. At this point, I'm challenging myself. How long can I do? Can it be before I actually do like one full-on review for Sitpop? I've done hundreds for my blog,
Yeah.
but I'm always kind of like almost, believe it or not, I'm kind of shy to actually write because I believe sitpop.com is read by more people than my tiny blog.
Hmm.
So it's almost like I know it shouldn't, but like I'm kind of shy. Just, but the day might come. Day might come
Well, I'll be ready and waiting for that moment, ready to publish whatever you gotta, what you have to say, what you want to put out there.
for my spicy takes, as you very well know.
Right.
Like as you very well know, I'm not shy to defend a bad movie or to be like, is this movie really that good? Like, is it, guys? Let's talk about this. No, but
It's
Robert,
true.
so
You like Crank and you like Leave the World Behind, so
that's true. Like, when I die, those two things will be on my tombstone. Here lies he who really liked Crank and Leave the World Behind. He was kind of, yeah, it's okay. That's
his
that's
takes
all
were
my
okay.
achievement.
Yeah.
That'll be all my achievement. Like even if I die at 100, it's just gonna be those two will be mentioned on my tombstone.
From
I'm
70 years previous, here were two movies that he liked.
yes, and I'm like I don't know if this is my legacy, to be honest. If I'm all right with this being my legacy. I need to work on this, I guess.
Hmm.
But that's something I actually wanted to discuss with you.
Sure.
And I don't know how to ask this. So because you, unlike me, okay, let's put it this way. I am very not I'm quite generous with my ratings, like on Letterboxd,
Sure.
specifically about
Sure.
Letterboxd. And I think you're on the opposite spectrum of myself, where you are, if you give a movie a 5 star, it's almost a miracle in a way. And
Okay.
uh, and I know what it implies, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to shame you for it or
You're
anything
saying
like
I'm a
that.
hater. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You heard it here first. Robert is a hater. No, it's more about like, what's your, you know, philosophy on rating movies, especially if, you have quite a few followers. You obviously, you're head editor for SiftPop. So, and
Mhm.
you're a smart guy. So what is your
Thank
philosophy
you.
on rating movies? And like, for example, because many times I read your, letterbox reviews, and
Mhm.
I cannot find any single flaw. And then, it would be just quote unquote 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5. So I'm just always wondering what, is that one thing that stops you
Mhm.
from giving it 5 out of 5, let's say.
I don't know. I uh probably a year or so ago is when I decided that I was going to stop using Letterboxd primarily as a social platform.
Hmm.
Because sometimes I'll just like put down a rating and then not say anything. And I want to use it more, as it was probably designed, which is as a diary for you, which also allows you to read other people's reviews and comment, yada
Yeah.
yada yada. Um, so in the last year or so, I've been giving much more in-depth reviews on Letterboxd than I had in the past because I used to do a lot of jokes, and then sometimes I'll be I'll hear a movie come up on a podcast or whatever, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. What did I think of it?" And I'll I'll go to my Letterboxd log of it, and it's just a stupid joke. I'm like, okay, I don't remember what exactly what my thoughts were or why I
Yeah.
only gave it 3.5 instead of 4 or whatever.
Hmm.
So that's the intro to answer your question. The real answer is that I recently put in my Letterboxd bio the following: that my star ratings are arbitrary and not based on anything, so don't take them too seriously.
Hmm.
Because I know a lot of people write out like 5 stars equals masterpiece, not four and
Yeah.
a half stars is this or that. Um, to me, the stars are just vibes. It's just like
Hmm.
this one felt like 4 stars to me. I don't know why.
Okay.
Sometimes what really constitutes a 5 for me a lot of the time is if I feel like a movie has a strong message,
Hmm.
and I can also connect to it in some way personally,
Hmm.
on top of it being just well done across the board.
Yeah.
Um, so normally, if I give a movie a 4.5, it's
Hmm.
because one reason or another, there was something that was just missing.
Hmm.
That's obviously still a very positive review of a
No,
movie as
yeah.
a 4.5 star, and I will leave just a very positive review. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Here, actually, I can. I have my page open right now.
Okay.
I watched Dial M for Murder the other night for the first time,
Great movie.
the Hitchcock movie. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 because I thought
Hmm.
it had good ideas about
Hmm.
murder and about right versus wrong, and it's just perfectly written, and it has all this great direction, and
Hmm.
that's how you adapt a stage play into film. It's basically all in one location, but Hitchcock
Yeah.
is intentional with every single shot, and the performances are great. Like, I have nothing but praise for it,
Hmm.
except at the end, like, I wasn't feeling anything other than just like, wow, that was a great movie. I there wasn't again, this is just me. There wasn't
Yeah.
anything that like I connected to. There wasn't a character that I was like super duper invested into, that I was like rooting above
Hmm.
all else for their survival or for this or that. So for whatever reason, I just didn't feel that emotional investment, but everything else was there. So I was just like, you know what, that's a
Hmm.
4.5. That's great. I had a great time. Um, Compare that to like Asteroid City, which I think
Hmm.
you can apply all the same stuff to. Well made, great, well acted, had something to say,
Hmm.
but I also feel super emotionally invested when I'm watching that, and I'm holding back tears by the end because of a few different scenes. So that one I give 5 stars,
Okay.
just because that means a lot to me for one reason or another. So that's kind of the long-winded answer of my distinction.
Okay. So is it fair to say you are saving those 5 stars for only the specific movies that will hit you one way or another? Like, so as you said, it's more like a vibe. So the movie can be objectively, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But if something isn't there that hits you just right, you will not give it 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I guess I haven't like explicitly thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Later on, you had like the last movies from different time periods that I rated 5 out of 5, and I was going to
Mm-hmm.
bring this up then, but I'll
Mm.
just bring it up now since we're talking about it. And it's just that I don't often give a movie a 5 out of 5 on my first watch.
Oh, okay.
Um, so oftentimes I'll give something a 4.5,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll come back to it later and be like, okay, yeah, that definitely was as good as I thought it was. Here's 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it like I'm expecting that to happen with All of Us Strangers. I
Mm.
had a couple questions coming out of it. You haven't seen that, right?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay,
It's
so I
on my
won't be
list.
specific. Yeah,
Okay.
I had a couple things coming out of it where I was like, I don't know what I make of this. But as I've sat on it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. And I'm sure I'll have this same emotional reaction to it the second time that I watch it. I'm definitely going to watch it a second time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those more formal filmmaking things aren't going to bother me as much the second time, because I kind of grasp what their purpose is and what the filmmaker was going for. So I
Mm-hmm.
expect that one will go up to a 5 once I see it again. It's more that, yeah, I guess subconsciously I reserve 5 stars for something that means a lot to me. And movies don't always like immediately mean a lot to me after the first viewing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. Again, and that's great reason actually. And I kind of view movies similar way, except if you follow me, and you are one of the few that actually follows me, so thank you for that. Your check will be in the
You're a
mail
good
and the end
follow.
of the month, end of the month as every single month.
Sure.
Um, but no, like see for, but I'm definitely more generous person. That's why
Mhm.
I would never consider myself a movie critic. I'm more of a movie enjoyer or cinephile because
Sure.
I honestly feel like there's a lot of reasons. I always felt like there's a lot of reasons not to give something the ultimate rating, right? And because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
what's the measuring stick, 100%. But like, if the movie does something that it sets to do very well, I have no problem with like, even like let's say stupid quote unquote 80s
Hmm.
movie, like action, like with Arnie or Stallone or those guys. Well, I was brought up on those movies. So I
Yeah.
have a soft spot for them. So that's there's that. But also like I feel like I'm more forgiving in a way where if I'm vibing and then I go to Letterboxd, and it's like 2.4 out of, and general consensus, and most of my friends are like 2 stars, 2.5, 1 star. And I'm like, oh well, here's my 5 then.
Right.
Do you see any kind of pressure with that actually? Because, as like me, well, many people who are on this podcast are cinephiles like yourself.
Hmm.
Do you see that, or do you have that kind of pressure where let's say you put on a movie tonight, you've never heard of that movie, you might have heard of one or two people raving about it, right? Then you put it on, you've enjoyed the fuck out of it, and
Hmm.
then you go to Letterboxd and just to discover, oh shit, it's let's say 2.2, average, and most of Sitfo people are like kind of mid on it. Does that affect your rating or enjoyment in any way? Or do you feel like you need to be more, I guess, almost, combative in your rating in a sense where, you need to actually stick up for that movie a bit more?
I know what you mean.
Hmm.
And it's kind of something that I've been trying not to do again in that same time span as I'm just trying to treat Letterboxd as something for myself.
Yeah.
Where I want to, look back at it and be like, oh, this is what I thought of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, if I do come across a situation like that where I love something and everyone else is giving it like low ratings,
Hmm.
I'll read through reviews and just be like out of curiosity and ask why are people giving it such a low review?
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes I'll see a reason that is compelling to me or something that I didn't catch, but as soon as I see that someone else pointed this or that out, I'll think like, oh man, that does kind of color how I look at the movie. So
Hmm.
maybe if I was going to give it a 4.5, I'll just give it a 4 because I still enjoyed watching it, but that does stand out. I don't have a specific example of
Hmm.
that right now, but
Okay.
I am trying to be like honest and true to myself in those ratings. But like I said, at the end of the day, the ratings, the star ratings specifically, are very
Hmm.
arbitrary to me.
Hmm.
Um, I could, you know, 6 months from now, say that I liked a movie that I rated 4 stars more than I liked a movie that I rated 5 stars just because I think about it more, because I talk about it more, or for
Hmm.
whatever reason. Just in conversation, I'll say like, "Oh, I like that one," or more than I like the other one.
Yeah.
What matters to me when it comes to Letterboxd specifically is just like making sure I get specific thoughts down. And if I do like what you said, give all positive comments,
Hmm.
but still only give 4 stars for whatever reason, to me, looking back, that will indicate, oh yeah, there's this or I'll probably remember that there's this or that I didn't really like about it.
Hmm.
But I still obviously liked it enough to give it 4 stars, which is a very positive
Yeah.
rating.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like that.
Do
I do
you
like that.
adjust your scores compared to other people?
I try desperately hard not to. Like I try,
Yeah.
like basically this is why I like nowadays I've kind of moved to, if it's not a big movie, I'm not even watching trailers anymore.
Hmm.
So like I'm close to like 0 frames as it can, because yeah, like there is a point, and I think you can also speak to this. There is a point where when you've seen so many movies, you see certain patterns and you see
Oh yeah.
certain things, and it's very easy to have a like preconceived notion about, hey, this movie will probably be average. This movie will probably be fucking awesome. This probably be shit.
Hmm.
And I try so hard to go into every single movie. loving it, and or be with the mindset of I want this to be my next, favorite movie of all times. Doesn't matter if I'm watching The Beekeeper, or if I'm watching, if I'm gonna watch All of Us Strangers or Color Purple that's coming out soon, or
Yeah.
it's come out here actually. And so like literally every single movie I'm trying with that, going in that mindset and being like, I really hope by the end of this will be my new favorite movie of all time. I know it's probably not gonna happen, right? Like I am
Right.
still a realist. But at the same time, I'm just trying to give it such a benefit of a doubt. And part of it, that's why I try, and also me writing about movies and talking about movies, I try so hard not to read anything. Like, what do you guys, and it's quite hard because many times, mainly you guys, you, Foster, Heath, Rowan, you would get to see certain movies quite early. So it's
Hmm.
so hard. Like, so I see your Avatar and your star rating for, I don't know, like I remember seeing Ferrari, Foster's rating for Ferrari before I saw that. And I was like, I would like to read why he only rated it what he rated it, but I need to kind of hold on because I don't want to go into the movie and thinking, oh yeah, this is what Foster meant. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I try desperately hard to, to look at any movie with my own view. Just, and then after the movie's over, I'm like, okay, I think I know where I'm going with this. So, and then I'll open up Letterboxd and I'll say, oh, okay. So, and either it's one of those, isn't it? It's either like, oh yeah, I'm part of a crowd because everybody either loves it or hates it, or it's kind of mid on it, or I'm like, everybody hates it, and I'm like, this is actually pretty good. Like Crank. But yeah, like so
There's
I try so hard not to. But again, like as you said, if I read somebody's comment or review and actually explaining, yeah, this part bothered me, and I'm like, didn't even think about it like that. Or the opposite. If I'm down on a movie and everybody else is very high on it, and I read your opinion or somebody or Foster's or Heath's opinion, I'm like, and then they're like, "Oh, I love this because this and this symbolizes this and this, and I like this aspect and this angle." And I'm like, "Oh shit, didn't even think about it like that." And then I'm like thinking back and like, "Yeah, I can kind of see it." I'm
mhm.
not saying like it would like shift me all the way. So like from a movie I would rate, I don't know, 3 stars, it will suddenly go 4.5. Or no, but I'm
Right.
probably be like, you know what? That's probably just my issue and not the movie. So maybe that would go on a list of I might need to rewatch this.
I Now that you say that, I hadn't thought of it until just now, but I find myself being less forgiving if I find people saying I saw this and that in it
Hmm.
when I didn't see this or that in it.
Hmm.
So maybe Maestro is a good example of that, where like kind of see what people say that they like about it.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, okay, I see that in theory, and I
Hmm.
see, you know, all the ideas that you're putting in there, but
Yeah.
I was still bored to tears watching the movie. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like, just because a movie has ideas, or just because it has characters or something like that, for me, I can see it, but it doesn't always mean that everything else is executed well.
Hmm. Hmm. No, and to be fair, Master is a great example of movie we are kind of aligned, both of us aligned on. Like
Yeah.
we've talked about this and we kind of discovered pretty much we feel the same way about this movie where it's technically quite well made movie, but it just Bradley really wants that Oscar.
Hmm.
And really wants that Oscar. And like, and then he shouts it at you like, I really want that Oscar, motherfuckers. Just, and that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Just,
Can I ask
yeah.
you
Tell me.
also, like, if you're not reading reviews, but you are scrolling Letterboxd and you see like that Foster gave
Hmm.
Ferrari 3 stars,
Hmm.
does the 3 stars even affect your viewing experience? That you're like, oh, I'm going to expect this to kind
Hmm.
of be middling, because I saw a few people give it 3 stars, even though I didn't read their specific criticisms of it.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Again, I try desperately hard not to.
Yeah.
So, like, especially like with Ferrari. So, like, I only saw Foster's rating, and I think that he was the only one out of the Sith crew because I was lucky enough to catch like an early, like, advanced screening here. So that was
Mhm.
like a full week before it opened. So even Shane, not even Shane, which usually Shane is like the first person to rate any
Right.
new movie, right? So not even Shane's rated that. I was like, holy shit. I think it was only, I don't know if even Dicer rated it at that time. I know Foster was there, so either it was Foster himself or Foster and Dicer.
Mhm.
But yeah, I remember Foster with three. And I'm like, I kind of like that movie. So like I read what he thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I cannot really disagree. But it's usually like it's usually that kind of thing where movies are art, and art is, as much as we like to pretend, is very subjective, right?
Uh-huh.
And what doesn't work for many, works for some, and vice versa. So as I said on our discussion with about Ferrari, if you go into it, expecting a racing movie and all this excitement and cars go room, they do go room, and they go room quite well. But it's
Uh-huh.
not about that. And it's the and I, knowing or not knowing what many people have complained about, how like for from now what I understand, many people have complained that it's just tries to do both at the same time, and for many it didn't work at all, and for me it did.
Right.
Because for me, I actually was more intrigued about a real story rather than, hey, cars go vroom again. Fucking awesome. And then there was this one brutal scene. I'm like, oh, damn. They really went there.
There's a scene where cars go crash.
Guy, yeah, yeah, and it's quick and it's fucking brutal. And it's just like, damn. And I didn't know it was coming because I'm not really into Ferrari or like racing in general, so I don't know much
Yeah.
about the history. So I didn't know it was coming, and I was like, uh-oh. And then it happens, and I'm like, oh shit. No, but yeah, so I like try like, and the other thing, that's the other thing. I find myself rating movies based on how much into that movie I am. Meaning, I know this sounds kind of like simplistic, and I'm like, duh, how else would you rate it? But I'll explain.
Uh-huh.
If I find myself nitpicking the movie, like noticing, I don't know, like continuity errors or plot errors, that means I'm bored. That means I'm not in a
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
So when I like, when I'm in a movie and then ends, I'm like, oh fuck, that was great, like 4.5 or 5 stars. And then I read people's reviews, I'm like, yeah, there's, like fucking editing was shit. This didn't make sense. This didn't make sense. And I'm like, I guess you're right. But I was so in it, I didn't notice
Yeah.
that. And to me, that trumps everything. Like if a movie pulls you in so much that you can actually read like decent criticism and agree with most of it. And but it's still like, but it's not my experience. Like, like I'm not saying it's not the case, but for me, the movie kept me so occupied and so, in it, where I didn't have that problem. So, 4.5.
Right.
For C crank.
I know.
For any clarification, C crank.
That's actually a good example of what I was talking about, where I see
Hmm.
all the positives of
Hmm.
what you guys are saying on that episode.
Hmm.
Like I understand in theory what people might like about it. I just did not have a good time watching those movies, so very low rating.
Exactly. And look, and it's not for everybody. It's acquired taste.
Right.
It is like Jason Statham is an acquired taste. Let's be clear. Well, he is bald, he's British. He's not for everybody.
He's
It's
angry.
oh yes, he's super angry. And most of his
Mhm.
movies, wait, pretty much all of his movies.
Yeah.
But, he- but would he ever win an Oscar? Like, will he ever have that kind of? No, that's too much. That's too far. That's too far. No, but will he? Like,
No.
can you imagine a
Unless they put in
scenario?
like stunts one day.
Can you imagine a scenario like, well, but see, here's the thing. We're laughing about this. But if I tell you 10 years ago, hey, Brendan Fraser, the guy from Mummy, he will be an Oscar winner in one day. Like 10 years ago, you would be like, nah, get fucked. No, no, I like him, but nah.
But he doesn't just play Brendan Fraser in every movie, right?
Yeah,
Like
but it's not
that's
like he's done much before, and also he had the
sure.
big kind of pause in his career for what now we know, like it was needed, and he
Hmm.
didn't really felt great. So I'm not mocking him because he had a pause. No, no, nothing like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But he even before the his break, it's not like he was kind of Brendan Fraser type. Like he was the kind of like funny, relatable, adventurous guy where he wasn't like never too muscly as a like I don't know Rock or Arnie or Stallone, so you can relate to him. But at the same time, he was like the you know smart ass kind of, joke cracking guy. So he had a type. Like, yeah, sure, like Jason Statham has a Jason Statham type. But it's not
I
like
mean,
he's shown much range. Like he was great in what he did. But it's not like I've seen much range in him before. And to be fair, I still haven't seen The Whale because I feel like it's gonna be a tough watch. So yeah, I'm bracing myself for that.
that's one that I had a good emotional reaction to, so I think I gave it 4.5, even though like
Hmm.
that's one where I see the the criticisms of it.
Hmm.
But like here's three weird movies to throw out. Like
Tell me.
Brendan Fraser in The Mummy is different than Brendan Fraser in George of the Jungle is different from Brendan Fraser in Looney Tunes, right? So like there it's all a similar type of adventurous, somewhat silly, but like I think I don't know, this isn't a fully formed thing because
That's fine.
I'm just on the fly here. But when you are more charismatic,
Hmm.
um, like he is, I can see him branching out into other types of roles.
Hmm.
He's always the upbeat positive, so like
Yeah.
and silly in some way and just kind of charismatic and
Yeah.
magnetic. I'm like, I see more there.
Hmm.
But when
Hmm.
Jason Statham has given us 15, 20 years of angry British bald guy does action, I sure he's good at that,
Hmm.
whatever, but I don't see much else there. Like I don't expect to be seeing him, in The Father in
Yeah.
20 years or something like that.
Just you wait in 2034, just that best leading actor, Jason Statham. It's gonna shock everybody. Like I'm making that prediction right now.
I'll eat my words. I'll hand it to you if that
To
happens.
be
But
honest, if we ever played some sort of Oscar bingo, who will win an Oscar one day? No, he will not be there. But it'll be kind of funny. It'll be kind of funny. I'm just gonna say.
even like The Rock though, who has
Hmm.
basically played The Rock for the last 10-ish years,
Hmm.
um, he has shown other stuff, even if it's like a different, a different type of the same flavor, like Pain and Gain,
Hmm.
Ballers
Hmm.
are a little bit different than just, charming action dude.
And to
Uh,
be fair with him, I can
uh-huh.
see because, here's another discussion we kind of need to have about Oscars. It's, as much as we like to pretend it's all about the art and stuff, it's more about the politics of behind the scenes, what we as
Mhm.
normies don't get to see. So I can see a world where Rock, gets handed an Oscar-winning material, as I'm pretty sure he even tweeted like, he's ready to take on like, A24 movies and more like serious movies.
He
So I
has a
can
Safdie
see,
movie coming up.
see, so I
Yeah.
can see a world where he will land a decent role, he will
Hmm.
give a decent performance, where there might be a year where even if he's not the best one, he will get it just because he's done so much for the cinema or for a box office rather than the cinema.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like because he is one of those. It's kind of like Tom Cruise. Like Tom Cruise should have gotten Oscar. Like he's definitely a better actor. Look, Tom Cruise is definitely a better actor. I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
but he should have gotten an Oscar like a long time ago. So had he, if he were to get an Oscar now, it will kind of be like, it will probably be like, hey, this is your lifetime achievement award, but we will call it the best supporting actor. You
Like
know,
Top Gun 3. Yeah.
it might be coming, maybe coming.
Yeah. Just look at like Eyes Wide
Mhm.
Shut, Magnolia, stuff like that. Tom Cruise is a great actor. And
No, 100%.
Collateral, yeah.
And again, he should have. Oh, Collateral is like that's a one of the only, maybe the only time he's proper played villain. And
Hmm.
Jesus fuck, I really would like him to like go back into that because he genuinely was terrifying in that movie. Like,
Yeah. I wonder if he will ever go back to challenging himself performance wise. Not that, doing Ethan Hunt isn't challenging, but it seems like he's more interested in doing
mhm,
daredevil stunts on film than,
yeah.
you know, acting intensely or
But
emotionally intensely.
but I feel like the last or the next Mission Impossible will be the last one for him. They're kind of, suggesting it, or they've been kind of dropping hints that he's getting old. We are all getting older, as is Tom Cruise. No matter how much, baby blood he will bathe, and he will get older. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But maybe. No. No. But yeah, again, there's always like nowadays the actors they have these kind of like golden years where I've been known as the action guy for a while, or I've been known as the comedy guy for a while. Let's just get serious and let me try to win the Oscar. Just that one, just that one. And Tom, I feel like he could still get it.
I hope so.
Hmm.
He's definitely not like Statham or The Rock. Like I could 100% see it if he just like I'm going back to doing it. And it's like Robert Downey Jr., right? He's
Oh
spent
yeah.
so much time, 10 plus years doing the same thing. Even in
Hmm.
like The Judge or Chef, he's still, you
Yeah.
know, some flavor of Iron Man. So but all of a sudden he's in Oppenheimer and he blew me away, right? So
Yep. Yep.
it's similar-ish to Tom Cruise, where he had a body of work beforehand and has been in a similar speed for about a decade or
Hmm.
more.
Hmm.
But he definitely has the ability if he wants to.
That is true. But see, okay, here we let's step aside besides because we can talk movies all day long, and we
Okay.
will shortly, but I want to get to know you a bit more. So, have you ever been on Tinder, Robert?
No, I haven't actually.
So, if I were to ask you if you had a Tinder profile and that just, consists of like, your hobbies, what do you like? Because obviously you're the movie guy, same as me. We love movies, right? But
Mhm.
besides movies, what are your basic kind of information? Where are you from? Um, what are your hobbies besides movies? Like you mentioned sports, like what specific sports? What do you, is there something you particularly don't like? What makes Robert Robert?
Um, I would probably have one of the most basic dating profiles that you could ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, where it's just like, oh, here's a white dude with a beard who likes movies, sports, and hiking. So that's basically me. Um, I'm American, so I watch baseball and like Major League Baseball, basketball, the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So that I don't I used to be much more into more sports. I would watch American football and hockey. At a certain point, I don't remember what it was. There was something about it that I just like. I don't really enjoy watching American football.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's very violent, so I'm not really gonna continue, putting my
Yeah.
time and energy into supporting that when so many of these people come out with lasting brain damage from
Yep.
all this stuff. I could go into that deeper. I don't really feel like it right now, though. But I do, as much as sometimes I feel like watching sports is a waste of time because I don't know what the point of it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been into it basically since birth.
Okay.
Um, and but baseball and basketball, no matter how much my teams upset me, I will probably never give them up, even if it's just in a smaller capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't talk about that too much with Sif Pop people because obviously we're a movie slash pop culture community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm very much into sports, know a lot about baseball and basketball specifically. I and that's kind of how my hobbies branch out too. Like
Mm-hmm.
right now it's cold. I live in Pennsylvania. It's cold here
Mm-hmm.
because we're in the middle of January, towards the end of January. So I don't do much outside when it's cold. But as soon as spring comes around and I can go outside wearing shorts and like a light jacket or something like that, I'll be outside hiking. I'll be just doing outdoor activities because that's the type of thing that I like to do.
Okay.
Um, as it's cold right now, you'll probably see me logging more movies on Letterboxd than I will later in the year.
Makes sense.
Um, but once it gets sunny and warm out, then I'll feel like I should be doing more stuff outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to front load my movie watching year because I know that I'm not going to be watching as many once the weather gets better.
Mm-hmm. That's so relatable. Like, I always feel bad when, I live in Scotland, so kind of similar in a way where, now the weather is kind of shit. So I'm like, yeah, I can stay home and watch movies. And then
Hmm.
the weather kind of clears up. And by kind of, I mean, if we get 20 degrees, like Celsius, not Fahrenheit,
Hmm.
that's for us, that's summer. So for many people, that's barely spring. But for us, this is
Yeah.
like a peak summer. And then I'm like, I should probably get out, but also there's so many movies I haven't yet to see. Like just like I'm like, and there's always the kind of like, shit. Yeah, I should probably go out, but movies. But oh yeah. So I know what you're talking about quite well. So
Yeah.
Philadelphia, hey?
Not Philadelphia. I live
Well,
excuse me. I live yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. So I
But
live
it's in
an hour or
Philadelphia.
so.
Is it not in Philadelphia? Or am I? mistaken completely.
Yeah, you're close. You have it backwards. Pennsylvania is the state, Philadelphia is the city in Pennsylvania.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Oh, yeah, the other way around. Sorry. Because yeah, like I is it one of those swing states? If I'm Philadelphia, because you guys have an upcoming election that's not important at all. So
No,
no, no, no.
no geriatric people, no fascists, nothing like that. Pennsylvania for a long time seemed to just mostly be red,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a big deal in the previous election, the first Biden-Trump matchup, that
Yeah.
we went blue.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big deal because there are a lot of electoral votes here.
I do remember
Uh,
that.
so yeah, it was like, oh, maybe they can switch around, and we
Mm-hmm.
managed it, thankfully.
So all right. Well, you're in for a lovely year. As I've talked to many of your fellow American successful people, you're in for a lovely year.
Hmm.
I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it being over and
Yep.
hopefully, a better outcome
Hopefully.
being the
What is
yeah the
even better
outcome.
outcome at this point? What is even better outcome?
It's true, especially with
What
how
is
certain things have been handled,
shaping up?
the last couple months. Um,
Yep.
but hey,
But hey, yeah, it is what it is.
it's the thing is, Biden isn't outright wanting to destroy democracy. He's just evil in
Hmm.
other more subtle ways and tries to cover it up, whereas Trump doesn't try to cover it up and he wants to become, God
Dictator.
Emperor of Dune. Yeah.
Hmm. But hey, he still has many fans, and
He's got one or two, yeah.
maybe you could say even maybe three or four. Like
Maybe, yeah.
the
I
guy is
definitely
quite
don't know
popular.
any of them around here.
The guy is quite popular and just blows my mind. It just I remember I don't know if you've seen any signs. There was a when he was a president already, he flew to Scotland because he I live quite close to one of his golf courses. So
Good for you.
I know, I know. Great, great. Honestly, just I couldn't, couldn't wish for anything better. Just yeah. I still remember like how when he was elected, somebody broke into one of his golf course and put up a Mexican flag.
Oh,
So that was fun. Or the people welcomed him with the signs like "Go home, ya cunt." Just it's just people. Scottish people are lovely. Like
yeah, very
they.
polite Scotland
Oh
welcome.
yeah. No, I'm proud to say, like, because I kind of count as one of the Scottish people now since I have my passport.
Hmm.
They were kind enough to accept me as one of their own, and I also paid a lot of money to get it. So hey, that's another
So they
thing.
better.
Yeah, but yeah, like it seems from what I've been reading on, like Scottish people have hated Trump before it was popular, especially people around here because they knew exactly what kind of person he is.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of
Big
like,
time
oh,
movie star. He tells kids
yes,
where to go
yes.
inside hotels. Yeah.
See, Hillary never did that, did she?
No, she didn't. And she
So
supports Barbie though, so it was only what, 8 years too late for her initial election.
that tweet, though, yeah, that tweet was
It was a rough one.
that just like Hillary, you mean well, but but yeah, there is a reason. There is a reason people are like, you know what, let's try Trump. And hindsight, yeah,
Not the best idea.
not the best of ideas. But anyway, you mentioned Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you, Robert, hey, I'm coming there for a week. Where would you take me? What would I need to see? Where would we go and eat? Like, do you have some favorite places to like show somebody around?
Frankly, no.
All right.
I'm not the biggest fan of the state that I live in. It's just
How
through,
come?
it's just through life circumstances that I ended up here.
I see.
Um, just the way that things work out in life.
I see.
Um, here's my this isn't the first quibble that you would expect with the
Mm-hmm.
place that you live, but I grew up a little bit north of New York City, so I
Okay.
lived in New York growing up
Mm-hmm.
until college, and I can't get any good pizza around here.
Ah.
Uh, there's great pizza all over New York, even like the people who would be in the city where the best pizza is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they know that they can make some good money if they just go outside the city a little bit because they know how to make the good pizza, and they'll
Yeah.
get all the business instead of a fraction of it because you're
Hmm.
in Manhattan or whatever. But Pennsylvania, it's too far. No one knows how to make pizza around here. It's except for like I miraculously found one place by me that I like. It's the out of all the pizza places I've eaten, because I've family and friends around here go to different pizza places. Pizza is a very common
Yeah.
food to get around here.
Yes.
Uh, so I've been to plenty of pizza places.
Hmm.
Literally, the only one that I say that I genuinely like
Hmm.
is the one right down the street from my apartment. So I'm happy about that.
Nice.
But everywhere else, you put up with it because it's pizza,
Hmm.
but it's not good when like on the scale of what it should be.
I see. So okay, let's see. Okay, let's go there. Let's go pizza.
Okay.
What about you and pineapple?
I I'm also not a very adventurous eater as it is, so I've
Okay.
never even tried pineapple on pizza. I'll just say that.
Okay. Okay. So are you opposed to the idea or would you be keen to try it at some point?
Uh, I'm opposed to it for myself just because
Hmm.
I don't love the consistency and the texture of pineapple.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if people want to put a pineapple on their pizza and they like it, do it. I don't care. Like
Hmm.
as long, anything that's not, a bad thing, like
Yeah.
ethically bad thing to eat, put whatever you want on whatever you want if it
Hmm.
tastes good to you and you enjoy it.
I'll say like I used to be one of them who people who don't like I don't didn't understand it. Like I'm just like, really? That's kind of weird. And then my
Mhm.
girlfriend, I started to date my girlfriend and she loves pineapple, but not with ham because usually I don't know about America, but usually if you have a pineapple, it goes with like a ham.
Mhm.
But she doesn't eat pork, so she would have it with beef and like some like spices, and it actually kind of slaps. It's not something I would order on my own, but every time I would steal a slice off of her, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I can kind of fuck with it. Like, I can actually like it's not as bad. And people, so like I never understood the people who are like adamantly against it.
The only time I would be adamantly against it is if like there's a group all ordering pizza for everyone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then you got to go a little bit more basic for that more people are going to enjoy. But
Hmm.
if you're ordering, if there's 25 people at a party and you're ordering six pizzas,
Yeah.
if you want to get one with pineapple because four people are going to like it, go for it. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. That's fair. And my second question to that, so since you're not
Mhm.
taking me anywhere, which is fine, I'm just gonna be rejected and sad. And
You
you
can hang out
said,
at my house and we'll watch movies for a week. How's that sound?
okay, now I'm happy. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay.
No, but so you mentioned it's just by circumstance that you kind of ended up where you live right now.
Mhm.
So we obviously don't have to get into like anything like that. But let me ask you this: do you think you will ever move? And if so, where would you move?
Um, well, let me go back real quick
Okay, okay.
and say that if you absolutely wanted to, I could take you to Philly. I don't live
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Philly, but I live close enough.
Yeah.
The movie landmark there is are the Rocky Steps of the
Yep.
museum, and there's a statue of him. It
Hmm.
used to be at the top of the steps,
Hmm.
um, but it got moved to the bottom of the steps. I don't really
Is
know
it
why,
because
but
people can no longer run?
I really have no idea what it is, but it got moved.
All right.
Um, and it's kind of just like to the best of my knowledge, I'm not familiar with the city very much, but like to the best
Hmm.
of my knowledge, it's kind of just in a high traffic area. And,
Hmm.
I was driving east to the beach this past summer and I had to go through Philly and it's just like, oh wait, look, there's Rocky on the side of the street. So
Yeah.
that's kind of fun. I'd take you there. Um, Hershey Park is also a good amusement park. I don't
Okay.
know how well known that is, internationally, but
Not
at
really.
least okay. Hershey's chocolate.
Yes.
It's an amusement park based on the chocolate.
Okay.
So it's like I, I think it's like Coke, where Coke also has Sprite under their banner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Hershey Kisses also have like Kit Kats and Reese's peanut butter cups and all that kind of stuff. So there's like
Hmm.
candy themed rides and a gift shop and that sort of thing, and it's kind of fun.
I see.
Yeah, and then now I rejected the next part of the question, and I don't remember what you asked me now. I apologize.
It's fine. So I've asked, if you can you imagine yourself moving someplace
Oh yeah,
else,
yeah.
someplace where you would you rather live? And if so, where would that be? Would you go back to New York or would you want to try something else, somewhere else?
I don't. So landscape wise, I don't like Pennsylvania because it's very boring in terms of it's just like a lot of farmlands. Like I would rather be in a
Hmm.
more diverse in terms of like the landscape around me, like where I grew up. It wasn't that far to be able to get to the big cities,
Hmm.
as well as go on nice hikes, as well as go to the beach. Like you could do all three of those within 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a little bit further to do all that around here, and even the hiking that I have around me, it's not as I don't enjoy it as much as where I grew up.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't like that part of it, but I do like that I am close to family and friends. So I'm not too picky about where I would live. I would like to move at some point.
Okay.
Um, but it's not like necessarily picky as long as I'm still close enough to some people that I know that
Hmm.
like I wouldn't be completely isolated.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. So
just
would New
try new
York?
new things. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No, I can dig it. Yeah. See, that's such a sensible answer.
Yeah.
Very sensible. No, but
Thank you.
with all right. So with this, we can play a
Hmm.
quick game of this or that. I'll give you two
Sure.
options, and you just, tell me which one would you prefer,
Hmm.
and we'll see what we can get. So, Robert, tea or
Hmm.
coffee?
Can I say neither?
Sure. It is all about you.
Is it this, that, or neither? Yeah, I don't drink either one,
Okay.
and
So just water for you.
yeah, I'm a water guy. Sometimes soda. I really don't like the taste of tea, and I've just never got into coffee, and I don't want to become dependent on it. And like, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't smell or taste good enough for me to, try to,
Hmm.
to start. So I'm gonna stick with water.
Yeah. What's your soda of choice?
Typically just Pepsi.
Pepsi. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
straight up Pepsi.
Nice. Money or free time?
Aren't they kind of one and the same? Or not necessarily one and the
Well,
same, but you like I often want money to be able to spend my free time the way I want to spend it.
hmm.
Um, but I guess if if I could have my needs met,
Hmm.
I would say like just have the baseline of, be able to get 3 meals a day and a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I would say free time over money. I'm definitely not the type of person who feels like I need to go overboard with a lot of stuff, or like I
Hmm.
don't have expensive tastes and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Honesty or other people's feelings.
That's a
That demonic laugh.
uh,
I like that.
you're
I like that.
you're starting to cut deep. Only the third this
Oh
or that.
damn, I'm sorry.
No, just because that's also a difficult one, right? Because
Hmm.
um I've I feel like I'm an honest person when it comes to people that I know and am
Hmm.
close with.
Hmm.
Um I'll be a little bit more honest and blunt, and some can sometimes be a little bit too hurtful, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um but I do value people's feelings just in general. I'm not a sociopath, but
Hmm.
I also just value people being honest and straightforward in general, and not, kind of two-faced or fake or
Yeah.
uh, roundabout in the way that they speak.
Hmm. And it's fair. Like, kind of this is how I approach it as well, by the way. Just if I'm if I consider you a friend, I'll just give it to you straight because I
Hmm.
have that kind of appreciation, that kind of level with you, or but if it's somebody I've just met or somebody I'm not that close to, and I'm like, you know what? Nah. And I kind of learn to pick my battles really. Just
Right. Yeah.
it's like this is not worth it because nothing is going to be gained from this. So yeah, let's just not do that.
Uh-huh.
So summer or winter?
Definitely summer. I don't like the cold.
Yeah, that's
There's an
fair.
easy one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I know you can always put on more layers, but at a certain point you can't
Hmm.
take any more off. But I
Yep.
would prefer to, just be in shorts and a tank top than be absolutely bundled up and still wanting to put on more blankets and coats.
No, yeah, summer all the way. I get you.
Yeah.
So probably the most important question of all, ninjas or pirates?
Uh, Jack Sparrow is not a ninja, so I have to go pirates.
Ooh. So why?
Honestly, probably just because I was
Jack
more into
Sparrow.
Pirates of the Caribbean movies than I
Okay.
was, ninja movies.
That's
Uh,
all right.
Pirates are fun. They're cool.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
can do whatever they want.
So you're
they
all good on like on the sea, like being on the sea all the time, just bouncing around, waving around.
mm, not necessarily.
Hmm.
I don't want to. I don't like that part, but
Hmm.
they're stylish. They can be
Yeah.
stylish too.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so maybe I'm just colored by that.
Now, this is why I love this question because every person takes it differently. So many people are like, "Oh, is it just about movies? Which one I would prefer? Is it about which
Uh-huh.
one I would prefer to be? But pirates are dirty, but ninjas have this code, and they have these
Yeah.
rules, and I don't like to follow rules." And it's been fascinating to hear people going through that question, like, "Yeah, which one actually I am? What camp am I? Like, in?" So it's just, yeah.
If I could be one of the pirates from Our Flag Means Death, like one of the less
Hmm.
violent ones,
Hmm.
I'd probably be in there. I would put
Nice.
up with living on the sea. I'd probably get used to it at a certain point.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, just kind of chill with your friends on a boat looking out at the ocean. Doesn't seem too bad to me.
That is true. That seems like sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
And the last one, free will or destiny?
Um, well, Indiana Jones only went after a dial of one of them, so maybe
I
I'd
see.
say I'd say Destiny. No, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of both. Who knows?
Okay.
Genuinely, I have no idea where I stand on this, but at the
Hmm.
same time, as I live my life, I don't feel like I'm, picking up my water bottle to take a sip of water due to destiny or due to fate.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm making that choice. So
Hmm.
there's too many existential things for me to worry about. So I really kind of keep my focus sort of limited on in that sort of context. So I
No.
would
Yeah.
say for me it's free will, but if one day I learned that this was all a simulation or something like
Hmm.
that, then I would say at least I felt like I was making my own choices to a certain extent.
You can see the stake, and I know it's a simulation, but you know how it is. The Matrix
Right.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned before the show that you don't really have a hot take, but you have a kind of lukewarm take.
Yeah. I don't have, too many hot takes that I
That's
necessarily want to
fine.
put out there in public. But
Understood.
apart from, I do believe Hillary is bathing in, the blood. That's a
Yes.
joke
You heard
also.
it.
That's
Yes.
100% a joke.
Or is
No,
it?
I
Dun dun dun.
for legal reasons, it's a joke. Yeah.
Yes.
No, the hottest take that I'd be willing to share right now
Hmm.
is just that I'm not a fan of fireworks. Um,
Hmm.
I they're to me they're all the same. If you've seen one fireworks show, you've seen them all.
Hmm.
They're way too bright. They're way too loud. They disrupt children, pets, and veterans. So
Hmm.
let's stop shooting rockets into the sky instead, and just hang out with friends. Do something
Hmm.
else where you're looking at each other in the eye instead of looking at giant
The sky.
explosions in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been into fireworks? As you were growing up, as you were, when you were a child?
No, my parents would take us to fireworks shows,
Hmm.
like, well, here on like 4th of July and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I would always cover my ears and be squinting real bad because they're way too bright. So I've
I
never
see.
liked them. I'm known as the one in my family that on 4th of July, I'm the one who goes inside the house during the fireworks show at the night or at night. I make sure that, the little kids are okay while everyone else gets to stay outside
Hmm.
and hang out and watch the fireworks.
No, I see. I see. Like, see, like the older I get, the more I'm in your camp because I remember when I was very little, well, like a kid, I was
Hmm.
into fireworks to an extent I would always spend the little money I had at the time on buying some like tiny fireworks for like home use, right? And then on New Year's Eve, I would just, go wild. And as
Yeah.
I get older, I'm like, yeah, I think we don't need this. Like, I feel like it's kind of overrated. And as you said, you've seen them one, you've seen them all.
Hmm.
And I kind of like what many or some countries start to do instead of fireworks, they have like a drone show. And those drones
Yeah.
are like coordinated into like different like shapes and music. And it's like kind of actual like show. Rather than, hey, this is a bunch of drones in the sky, No, they actually like, if you go on YouTube and search for that there is some spectacular stuff that can be done, but obviously it takes money.
Right.
But yeah, so with that, I guess we can move to the Flix part of this podcast and talk about some more movies as we for the talked about movies for a while, which is great. So
If you
Robert,
insist.
yes, I,
Yeah.
I do please. please. What's the last new movie you would rate it, 5 out of 5? And for the purpose of this podcast, any movie that's 2020 and beyond.
Um, so after our whole conversation at the top of the show
Hmm.
about how it kind of takes me a little bit to give something 5 stars for the first time, I went ahead and said screw it, and I gave Society of the Snow 5 stars.
Ooh,
And I just watched it, a few nights ago. Um, you'll hear me talking about it at length on Sif Up Writer's Room.
shameless
Uh,
plug. Yeah,
yes, shameless
like
plug.
it, like it.
Not sure when this episode releases, but that episode will probably be out by the time this one is. Um,
It will, trust me.
okay, it'll be out. Yeah, I really liked it.
Hmm.
The Gray is one of my favorite movies, which is like a survival movie in the
It's a
snow.
great movie.
Yeah, it's genuinely one of my all-time favorites. That's
Hmm.
5 stars. And Society of the Snow kind of reminded me of that in the sense of, snow survival.
Hmm.
But also I like that it gets at why people want to survive, and how it's a different reason for each and every person.
Hmm.
It Survival is the most basic part of human life, that we
Yeah.
everything we do is for survival. But as these people were stranded for what, 30, 40, 70 days, whatever it was, I don't remember.
Hmm.
um they're broken down to their very core, and it's all very raw, and they have to do some horrific things
Hmm.
just to stay alive. And when you have to do horrific things to stay alive, and when you have to do, the scariest things to stay alive,
Hmm.
um you start wondering, like, why do I want to stay alive? Why do I want to keep
Yeah.
fighting? Why do
Hmm.
I want to make it till tomorrow and hope that there's going to be rescue around the corner?
Hmm.
um and that the movie shows that it's going to be different for each and every person, but that we need to find that reason.
Hmm.
um yeah, I really love that message, and the way that it is presented in the movie with all of these different characters, even though we don't really know them too well.
Hmm.
We know them, to me at least, I knew them enough to have that theme hammered home, where it's like, this person wants to get home to their family, this person wants to do this or that, this person has this reason. um so seeing all the different angles and all the different mindsets is just a really interesting way to hammer home how we all have a different reason for survival. At the
Yeah.
same time, Jay Bayona is an excellent director, and it's just a very well made, well acted, well shot, everything movie.
Hmm.
I Yeah, I just really, really loved it.
I cannot wait to watch it. It's on my list, and I know I need to watch it before the Oscars. So
Hmm.
it's one I'm looking forward to, especially after hearing many people like rave about it. Even though I have not, again, I haven't read anything about it, but I've seen the ratings. And
Yeah,
obviously now it's Oscar nominated movie, several nominations if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I cannot wait to see that.
yeah, I'm
But
looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
oh yeah, maybe some, and maybe you're like, oh, it was just okay. No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Now, Bueno is a great director, so I have a hope. I'm hoping that it's gonna be great. So it's just finding that time, and again, to be emotionally devastated because I have a feeling it's gonna be one of the movies where at the end you might be like slightly emotionally down. So just find that time, 2 hours 20 minutes or so,
Yeah,
and
it's pretty long.
yeah, and also how at the end of it, at the end of that movie, you're probably not gonna feel as well or as great, which is the point of the movie. So
It does kind of uh end on a somewhat uplifting note, even
okay,
though the whole thing is horrific and
yeah,
dour.
yeah,
Um, but like, its ultimate message is kind of like about the triumph of the human spirit, which you've seen 100 times in 100
hmm,
different survival movies.
hmm,
But like I said, it kind of gets gets to why the human spirit wants to triumph, and I haven't really seen it done that way.
yeah. No, I cannot wait to watch it. Just yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the
Sorry for
last?
giving you information and like
Not at all.
expectations going in now.
Not at all. Not at all. What's the last teen movie you rated 5 out of 5? So anything in between 2003 and 2019.
I was trying to figure this out based on my Letterboxd ratings.
Hmm.
It looks like it was Patterson though. The Jim Jarmusch movie starring
Oh,
Adam Driver.
oh
Uh,
yeah. Okay.
it's a very different than Society of the Snow.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually last year that I watched it for the first time. It's not that. too long ago now that we're only in January, but
Hmm.
probably around summertime of 2023 that I watched it.
Hmm.
Um, it's have you seen it?
Yes, I have actually. My friend, she saw it and she was like, "See, I wasn't really that into it. I thought it was boring, but you understand movies better, so I feel like you might appreciate this." I was like,
Hmm.
"Okay," and then I spotted it on movie streaming. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the movie she told me about," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that was actually quite nice." So,
Yeah, I in a kind of similar vein to Society of the Snow, I like that it um finds meaning in, the kind of mundanity of everyday life. It's a very simple movie. It's a kind of repetitive movie about how he just goes
hmm.
to work, writes poetry every day, hangs out with his wife and walks his dog and then does it all over the next day.
Hmm.
Um, but it's about finding beauty in the kind of unremarkable things of life, and that living a life that you find beauty in is
Hmm.
just as valuable. Here, kind of like what you asked, um, money versus free time, where
Yep.
it's just like he doesn't need money, but he has the free time to do what he wants, and he seems to enjoy his job. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, so when something kind of confirms my worldview like that and puts it in a digestible format
Hmm.
in a type of movie that I enjoy, like Patterson does, then it's really going to work on me.
And also for me, I think I've seen it just before the new Star Wars, or or maybe is
Mm.
before the second one. So because I still wasn't as familiar with Adam Driver as an actor, so I'm like, this driver guy is pretty decent actually. Like, that was
This
before
bus
I've seen,
driver. Yeah,
yeah. And then so before I've seen like everything else he's done, and I'm like,
right.
yeah, he could actually be somebody.
Hmm.
So what is the last adult movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So anything in between 2002 and 1975.
Oh, that's a different type of adult movie than I thought you
Yes.
meant.
Oh.
Uh,
Well, you know what? I'll
um,
give you two if you wanna if you want that.
I'll limit it to the one.
Okay.
And I'll say Midnight Run. I also watched that for the
Ah,
first time in 2023 and
okay.
had maybe the most fun in any movie like that I watched last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really know. Like I don't have much to say about it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
super fun, and around every corner I was just having a good time and laughing. So again, going back to our conversation at the top about what we give 5 stars and
Mm-hmm.
what ratings get, or what movies get what ratings, just I had such a good time, even though like it didn't really have too much to say, and it was just a
Mm-hmm.
fairly simplistic thing about the value of friendship. It's like I enjoyed it. It's so good.
Yeah. See, I've seen this and I it kind of fascinating. Yeah, we go back to how we rate movies, how our previous conversation, because I've heard quite a few things about that movie prior watching it, right? And I
Hmm.
heard like many people loving that movie. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of them 80s class because it's like, yeah, it is like 80s, right? 80s something,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So it's gonna be like one of them, like, Coming to America or like, or one of them Eddie Murphy movies that are gonna be like just the 80s nostalgia. Even though I wasn't born in the 80s, I appreciate that kind of style of the decade. So
Hmm.
I was thinking, I was hoping for that kind of, something to hit me as that. And the movie, like, I liked it, but I didn't love it. So that was, going back to what we discussed before. That was when I went in expecting something like up here, and the movie
Sure.
delivered just like maybe 20% less than what I would like. So I still liked it. But I'm seeing when I'm watching all of these like ratings of other people, I'm like, damn, do I need to rewatch it again? Did I miss something that others have picked up on and I'm just dumb?
I I personally I didn't really go in with any expectations. I was just
Hmm.
watching some De Niro movies before Killers of the Flower Moon came out, and
Hmm.
I was just like, this one seems fairly well regarded. Let me throw it on.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just fun. You know what I mean? I just had the time of my life watching it, and that feels very subjective, even
Of
though lots
course.
of people have had that same experience with the same movie. So maybe it just didn't hit you the right way, didn't
Hmm.
have the kind of fun that you wanted to, but for me, I did.
No, and again, I'm so happy. I'm happy for you, and I
Yeah.
think I will eventually rewatch it because I would love to know if I've missed anything of him. Like, you know what, just not my movie. So like, just to kind of either confirm whether I was correct or whether I might have missed something.
Mhm.
Happens all the time. Me missing things happens all the time. Let me tell you.
It That's not necessarily the type of movie that I feel like you might have
Mm.
missed something. It's like I said, it's kind of straightforward. Like he needs to get the guy from point A to point B, and
Yeah.
he doesn't like flying, and he's trying to get free because he's been kidnapped. It's just kind of a hijinks movie, but
Hmm.
as done as well as you can, to me at least.
Yeah. True. True. And what is the last old movie you rated 5 out of 5? So anything older than 1974.
Tokyo Story, which is from the
Oh,
50s, which
nice.
is another one going back to after two,
Hmm.
meaningful movies, going to the fun of Midnight Run. I'm going to go back to the meaningfulness of Tokyo Story, which is, a nice emotional look at, you know, families are complicated,
Hmm.
but it takes that idea and just makes a whole movie about it, about how everyone is their own person and we have complicated ties to the people in our family and we want to
Hmm.
keep in touch with them, but like it's kind of arbitrary that we became family with them in the first place, but we still love them.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's just like a unique relationship with each of your family members, whether it's a sibling or a parent or a child or aunt or uncle or in-law, and all these different ways.
Hmm.
And then the movie, I mean, it's 70 years old, so like at the end, it's just we die alone and then life continues and goes on for everyone else.
Hmm.
It's kind of nihilistic, but also at the same time, it's very beautiful because the people who make meaning in that movie are encouraged to make meaning in their life,
Hmm.
even though it has a fairly sad ending.
Yeah. See, it's on my queue because of Sixth Above Writer's Room. So like I
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen it yet. So now knowing how it ends.
Sorry.
Look, no, it's all right. It's okay. I had a feeling it was gonna be one of those sad movies anyway. It's fine. It's fine. No, but
It's
like
about an old couple
yeah,
visiting their kids, so
yeah, no, and it's no, but like it's definitely on my queue. It's just, it's one of those like I want to watch so I can hear people talk about it.
mhm.
But
Well,
it's and one of them people is you,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I don't think I've heard about this movie until I became kind of cinephile because like I think it pops up on quite a few lists when you search for best of all times. This and that.
Right.
So it's been in my kind of sight for a long, long time, but it's just not streaming anywhere close to me. So probably have to you know buy a Blu-ray or when you said before pirates, pirates sounds good. Also, like for different things, but
Sure.
no,
Yeah.
no, definitely not that. Definitely not buying, buying, buying.
You wouldn't steal a car, but
You
you
wouldn't
would
download a
maybe.
car. You wouldn't steal a baby. Yes, you wouldn't download a baby. So okay, but see, so from that,
Hmm.
what would you say is your favorite movie decade?
Oh man. Uh, how did I miss this? I missed this in the prep.
Oh
You
shit.
know, I would I was thinking about it though. I
Hmm.
just kind of missed it when I went back. Um, I would probably have to say the 2000s or 2010s. I don't have I apologize. Off the top of my head, I don't have the exact reasons why.
That's
But
fine.
apart from the fact that sorry, I'm looking at Letterboxd while I'm talking to you.
It's
Uh
okay.
just because the way that I grew up, I wasn't shown many movies
Hmm.
apart from, you I know this is audio podcast, but there's Lord of the Rings behind me. So you see
Yeah.
like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Harry Potter and that sort of thing and
Hmm.
all the superheroes. So I was shown, those ubiquitous franchises that everyone sees.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't really watch more movies than that.
Like many
I
older
grew up,
movies you mean.
yeah, older movies or just like other movies that were coming out at the time.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe an action movie here or there, but not really much else.
Hmm.
Um, so when I started watching movies, on my own as I got older, it was the new stuff that was coming out and trying to catch up on the stuff that I had heard, people at school talking about
Yep.
that was coming out now. You know what I mean? So, um, if you look at my letterbox stats, I have the most movies seen probably from the 2010s.
Me too.
Um,
Me too.
so just for that reason alone,
Hmm.
if you wanted to go quantity over quality,
Hmm.
uh, I would have to say the 2010s.
Hmm.
Where whereas also you could probably say the 2000s, but like it can be difficult to calibrate your mind to older movies sometimes because you're so used to a certain time period of filmmaking.
Yep.
So for me, that time period is the 2010s.
And there's something to be said. We like, the cinema, the art form has been around now 120 something years, right? So we've
Right.
definitely figured it out like in 2010s. We've definitely made quite a progress when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to, how to, how to light a scene, how to stage a scene, how to act, how to, perform. All them tiny things that actually make the movies we like the movies we like. And there is something to be said to that effect. At the same time, there's something to be said in going back and checking out how did it start. Like I always love
Yeah.
going back to even like 1920s and like 1910s and seeing the silent features. Or not even features, to be honest, like silent short movies, like Chaplin movies are some of them are like 20 minutes old, right?
Mhm.
And it's just how, or Buster Keaton, and how the level of invention in most of those movies, and how they had to be everything, like, their own, like, like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. Many people don't realize they are classified as two, first, like, not only movie stars, like genuinely movie stars, but also stunt people. Like the level of stunts they've performed and they had to perform on their own and kind of invent the rules around the stunts. I feel like many people outside of, like, us cinephiles don't give them enough credit when it comes to that.
Yeah, they're like you watch just like Sherlock Jr. or
Yep.
basically any Chaplin movie where he's just up to shenanigans and
Hmm.
uh on top of just being the silent film stars, they're throwing their bodies around, but
Yep.
I presume in a somewhat safe way or in a way that they in a controlled way at least.
Hmm.
Um and that's what makes the movies so fun. They were like the original Tom Cruise in that way.
Exactly. No, exactly. So, do you have some movie hot takes?
Well, if you don't mind, just to add on to what you were just
Oh
saying,
yeah, on the
uh,
go, please.
um, I mentioned that I try to stuff in all these movies at the beginning of the year because,
Hmm.
I'm probably going to watch fewer as the year goes on.
Yeah.
Um, I've been trying to watch a lot more, uh, just movies from 20 plus years before I was born,
Yeah.
because that's obviously my blank spot. I'm sure most people have seen the most movies from the time they were alive
Hmm.
and on. So I kind of been wanting to remedy that a little bit and checking out some of the classics. And even doing that, if you watch an old movie, you can obviously see by the visuals that it came out however long ago.
Yep.
Um, but watching older movies, it's less jarring than you would expect.
Hmm.
There are some that feel like, oh wow, this is old. Obviously, like the silent movies in particular. But apart from sometimes the way that people talk, like people
Hmm.
talk a very specific way in movies from like the 40s or 50s,
The
the
transatlantic
transatlantic
accent.
accent.
That's
Yeah,
just, yeah.
they speak and like the phrases that they use and that it's like largely devoid of violence and sex and stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um but there's also a lot of similar themes and a lot of similar things being explored, and it's
Hmm.
cool to see, like you were saying, the language of cinema being developed. So I really have enjoyed. It's not that I didn't watch anything older before, but I was just like,
Hmm.
you know what, I kind of gotten tired of watching 2010s movies, so I'm
Yep.
gonna start watching some more from the past. Things like Dial M for Murder, like I
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, and Bergman movies, and Japanese movies that I haven't seen outside of Seven Samurai or whatever.
Yep.
So it's I think there's a lot of value in doing that. And if you're scared of, uh not scared, but if like you're kind of trepidatious of watching old movies because you think they're going to be old or you can't do black and white or whatever,
Hmm.
it's really not as jarring as you might think, especially as you watch more and more of them and you kind of get used to
Hmm.
the language of cinema from the time.
And especially if you were like us, right? Because I would imagine you had the same journey. Like we would watch a lot of movies growing up, as you said, like, many from around the age where you were born or just what was popular. And as you watch more and more, you kind of like, well, yeah, like, but you notice many things repeating, many things looking the same, for lack of better words, like a lot of CGI, for example. And then you go back like 1960s, 1950s. There are some special effects, if you want to call it like that. Sure, there used to be blue screen, right? But not as much. And then you notice, oh hey, they actually shot this on location. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm going through like all the James Bond movies, and
Hmm.
there are like wild, some of them. But like, all of them, have shot on location. So, they would go to Cuba, they would go to Thailand, they would go to Japan, they would go to all these like, places. And, there is something that cannot be, even today, even in 2024, year of our Lord 2024, cannot be replicated. The CGI, you can still see if it's CGI. There's, no matter as great as it looks, right? There's something to be said about shooting it on location and practically. And there's something there that just we or the machines have not figured out yet, luckily for us.
I was watching my best friend's wedding from 1997 the
Oh,
other night.
yes.
Um, and that's not the first one that would come to mind necessarily when you think of what everything you were just saying.
Hmm.
But I did have that thought watching it where there's a mini car chase and you can tell that's Julia Roberts in a car driving
Yep.
through Chicago, I think it was.
Hmm.
It's just it feels more tangible, the world, instead of, the sitcom level where people are obviously in a car with
Yeah.
on a stage with the things going by behind them and artificial lights on them.
I always love that joke in Airplane, like how they spoofed it. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've seen Airplane.
Yeah, I have.
How they are going to to the airport, and he's just driving, but like the road suddenly starts to swirl, when he's running
Uh-huh.
over people, and he's just like he's just chilling like this, like he's holding the wheel, like
Uh-huh.
like chilling, and the roads are just swirling and it's like racing. And it's
Always turning the wheel too, because that's how people in movies drive,
yeah,
even if they're on a
exactly.
straight road.
No, exactly. It's But no, like I always go back to the Bong Joon-ho quote from I believe Golden Globes, like about especially foreign movies with subtitles, right?
Mhm.
And it's like I'm gonna paraphrase, but he basically said like if you overcome the 1 inch barrier of subtitles, you will discover so many great movies you've never heard of before, and it's
Right.
just great.
And
So yeah.
if you take that lesson about subtitles and the lesson about watching older movies, like,
Mm-hmm.
here's a weird comparison, but like Hacksaw Ridge and The Passion of Joan of Arc, those
Oh.
are two similar movies thematically
Mm-hmm.
about sticking to what you believe, especially having to do with religion in both of those cases. Um, and but it's interesting the way that it's a very tried and true idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe you like if you're like me and you've only watched Hacksaw Ridge, which is from 2016, and then you go back and watch Joan of Arc, you're like, you can discover that idea in a new way because of the different type of filmmaking. It's a silent movie with the intertitles, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very expressionistic acting and all
Mm-hmm.
these close-ups and these awesome sets and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you're tired of, there's only so many things you could say
Yeah.
uh about the human experience. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're like us and you watch hundreds and thousands of movies, then you're just like, okay, I've seen movies about this before. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
this isn't really, this one isn't really grabbing me because I've seen this idea communicated better in other movies.
Yeah.
Um, but if you just open yourself up to, like you said, subtitles or to black and white or to just silent movies or whatever, you're gonna be able to encounter similar things in a new way and maybe just make you think in a different way, which I
Mm.
always think is valuable.
Exactly. Like I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'll not trash.
Great.
No, but anyway, do you have any movie hot takes? Because you haven't had any like proper hot takes. So what about movies?
Um, I don't always have movie hot takes off the
Okay.
top of my head. Um, Sometimes things just come up and all of a sudden it's a hot take. But
Hmm.
here's maybe one or two. I don't know how hot they are anymore,
That's fine.
especially as time has gone on. I mentioned
Hmm.
the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep.
I would put Pirates of the Caribbean, those original three, I
Hmm.
would rival that trilogy with any trilogy in movie history apart
Oh,
from Lord of the Rings.
okay.
Uh, Lord of the Rings is my favorite movie, so like
Hmm.
obviously it's not going to rival that. But like to me, that's the first two are 5 stars, and the third one is 4.5.
Hmm.
So I would rival that up against Star Wars, up against Back to the Future, up against The Godfather. Because if you talk about trilogies, you have The Godfather, which is like 5.5, and then 2.5 or three, or
Hmm.
Back to the Future is like 5.4 and then 3.5 or something like that.
Hmm.
To be able to sustain quality all the way through, um, is very impressive to me, and I think Pirates does it about as well or better than any movie trilogy out there. And even because of what you were saying, they shot it practically in a lot of ways. Like they're actual boats on actual water, even if it's in a pool,
Hmm.
even if it's in a massive pool. Like Davy Jones, the squid guy, is lit
Hmm.
by real light and not in a studio. Like Bill Nye was on a set wearing his motion capture stuff, and it
Yep.
and it feels more real and tangible because of that.
And the
Um,
CG there looks like a CG that it was like one of the first like the third one was one of the first like 200 million movies. And it
mhm,
actually looks like it costed $200 million.
right.
Because that
As opposed to
CG,
watching Ant-Man,
yes,
Quantumania, or the Marvels or
yes.
whatever.
So like no, I actually like even when it came out, I was higher on the third one mainly than many people were because I really enjoyed myself. And now looking back at it, especially that CG that looks expensive and it looks as real as you can get, like we have a tentacle monster, but
Mm,
yeah, I can kind of see how this could exist in real life.
right.
So, like, it actually looks expensive. It actually looks like, yeah, they spent a lot of money not on their salaries, but they actually paid the CGI artist and gave them enough time to actually finish rendering it. Rather than,
Right.
hey guys, we need to hit this fucking deadline and you have 2 months to do it. Bye.
Because it needs to connect to 17 other movies
Yes.
that have come out and that are still to come out and that are going to come
Yep.
out next month.
So, chop chop.
Right. Get to
No,
animating, don't see your family for 3 weeks, eat 1.5 meals every day.
sleep is for the weak. You work.
Exactly.
No, and what about the other one? You mentioned you might have a second hot take?
Yeah, this one is I'll just say it. I don't care for the Oscars almost whatsoever. Like
Ooh,
I
okay.
I understand their value. And
Hmm.
here, we mentioned him earlier. I was talking to Foster about this
Hmm.
recently, off mic. Can you believe it or not? We talk about
Damn.
things off mic sometimes. Um,
That must be nice.
having IRL friends
I know.
can't relate. Uh,
No.
um, so I kind of refined it to I am like sick and tired of the way that people talk about the Oscars and then kind of how that
Hmm.
bleeds into just movie discourse in general.
Hmm.
Um, so like I understand the value of the Oscars of like raising up movies and like like below the line filmmakers, like the sound department who like
Yeah.
you get to see who worked on the movie sound and you talk about that part of it.
Hmm.
Or like Coleman Domingo getting recognition, and Jeffrey Wright getting recognition, and Sterling K. Brown and Andrew Scott, even though he actually wasn't nominated. But like people like this who aren't, Meryl Streep and Robert Downey
Yeah.
Jr. and Jack Nicholson, whatever.
Or movies like
Um,
Past Lives.
right, movies like Past Lives, exactly. So it has value in
Hmm.
bringing attention to people and movies like that.
Hmm.
But the way that we talk about them, I think, is horrible. Uh,
Hmm.
because like after the Oscars nominations come out, it's always what was snubbed, as if
Yep.
there's like a giant committee that gets together and says, all right,
Hmm.
we're going to nominate these 5 people, as opposed to there being hundreds or thousands of people in each branch of the Academy,
Hmm.
giving a preferential ballot. And this is just how the nominations worked out.
Hmm.
Um, because to me, I would like I said, I follow sports. So
Yeah.
I look to competition, or I look to sports for rich people in competition
Hmm.
with each other. Um,
Yes.
and when I watch the Oscars or hear how people cover them,
Hmm.
it's more like this person won SAG and the Golden Globe, so that means that they're gonna win the Oscar. And like
Yeah.
that's not about the content of the movie. And I want to talk about the content of the movie and what
Hmm.
makes them worthy of having won,
Hmm.
SAG or the Golden Globe or
Hmm.
whatever, which are a predictor of the Oscars.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
like that to me is the least interesting part of discourse around movies, is like who's going to win because they already won this, or
Hmm.
like who has the narrative inside the Academy this year, because I want to talk about why Past Lives was meaningful and why exactly people are upset that Greta Lee or Celine Song didn't get nominations for their
Or Greta
work,
Gerwig.
or Greta Gerwig. And I would argue that Lady Bird, she didn't, did she get director
No.
for Lady Bird? Yeah, like that is the one where I like would argue is a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
than Barbie because you have, you know, all the money behind it. And that's the other thing when
Yeah.
there's, so you were talking about campaigning and the
Mm-hmm.
politics of it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not worth getting worked up over
Mm-hmm.
the way that people do, in my opinion. I think it should be a celebration and be like, look at all these movies that are out here. And even in
Mm-hmm.
the months leading up to the nominations, saying like, these are the movies that are being discussed. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about them because they're worthy of discussion and
Mm-hmm.
not because they might win X and Y awards in
Yeah.
March. And then like after that, we'll talk about what won for a week and then all of a sudden never talk about those movies again. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like when movies can be lasting and because of what they do filmically and thematically and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when people keep talking about them for years, kind of like The Last Jedi, which is fully not toxic, and people talk about it even now
Yes.
because it's worth talking about, right? People love
Mm-hmm.
that movie.
Such a yeah, such a pleasant movie to talk about,
Yeah.
to like to hardcore Star Wars, fans about. Or like,
Non-controversial, nothing.
or like the Oscar winning movie Shakespeare in Love, just,
Hmm.
winning over Saving Private Ryan, and nothing, nothing odd about that whatsoever.
Right. Nothing.
It's yeah. No,
Green Book
I
deserved to win. Yeah.
yes. Yes, Green Book, yes. It's no, I see what you mean. Like I see, I'll say this, right? I
Yeah.
still love the Oscars.
Hmm.
I always said whether I like it or not doesn't matter, because if I'm gonna be cinephile, I need to recognize these, for better or worse. These are the top awards for this hobby I'm in, right? For
Sure.
for the movies. Would but yeah, exactly as you say, the moment the nominations are announced, there's always like, they missed this one, and it's because they hate this, I don't know, this group, or they miss this person. Is it because they hate women, or they missed this one, and it's just like, and it breeds these kind of like a very special kind of person. And I'm
Hmm.
like for example, like the Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie. I'm 100% in for they should have been nominated, right? Both of them. But it's been only 2 weeks, and I'm really not even, and I'm already sick and tired of that conversation, because I'm like, all right, yes, we all kind of agree, but it's even if we make a petition, it's not gonna change anything. Let's just focus on the actual nominees, right? Let's just focus on what we have. We've acknowledged we could have had it better, but also here's the thing: every single year is the same shit.
Right.
No matter, if you go back, no matter as far as back as you can, as you want to, there'll always be, oh, this person got snubbed, or this person should have been there, this person should have been there, and it just, or even like this person should have won. Like, when we know the results, this person should have won. How come this person didn't? And I'm as guilty of it as any other one. Like I'm bitching about these people. I'm one of them people. So I'm as guilty as the next person, because again, that's what makes movies so great, because we can talk about them for hours. We can be passionate about them for hours. And this, the crown jewel of movies is just, yeah, I honestly wish many people had your attitude rather than maybe my attitude, where like, we would not talk about the snubs, but rather focused on the movies and why they deserve to be nominated. And not like, hey, they missed these 10 movies, you should watch them too. Like All of Us Strangers. I was like, where is that? Or Iron
Hmm.
Claw, you know,
Right. Yeah.
and it's
It.
just, there will always be, but again, especially now when and this is another thing, more movies are being produced now than ever before.
Mhm.
And even if they go extend the category to 15 or 20, they will still miss some great movies, because there are more than 20 great movies coming out each year, believe it or not.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, some of them make it and some they don't, even though it's just, yeah, it is what it is.
The conversation around it seems to be sometimes that like if a movie isn't nominated, then you
Mm,
were wrong for liking it, or like you were
mm,
wrong for liking this movie
mm-hmm,
that I don't think should have been nominated. And if we turned it like if the conversation shifted to celebrating like a tone of celebration for what was nominated,
mm-hmm,
or even for like what we wish would have been nominated,
yeah.
instead of um like I saw a tweet that said something like you're an uncomplicated person if you liked past lives because that's a very simplistic look. It's not a very good movie. I'm just like, why are we making judgment on thousands and millions of people who we don't know who liked the movie. You know what I mean? That was nominated for Best Picture. That
Mhm.
lots of people liked the movie, and it meant a lot to a lot of people. Like if we stopped using that sort of language around it and saying like, sure, All of Us Strangers. Like I
Mhm.
really loved All of Us Strangers. This is what
Mhm.
I loved about it. I
Mhm.
really would have loved it if it would have been recognized for Best Picture or Best Screenplay for XYZ reason, and not like, you know, Barbie was I don't know why I picked on Barbie. Just like
Yeah.
this movie was nominated. I don't think it should have been nominated because the people who like it are stupid, and the movie that I like more should have been in there instead.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, if we had more of a just total mindset of celebration instead of competition and going at each other's throats about it.
Mhm.
Um, and let's remember, most of the people who talk about these movies had nothing to do with the creation of the movies in the first place.
Yeah.
Like you can still like the movie even if it wasn't nominated, or you don't have to like a movie because it was nominated. Um, I just have gotten the last few years very
Yep.
exhausted by the conversation around these movies and have just decided to take a step back and be like,
Mhm.
I'm going to talk about the movies that I like. I'll
Yeah.
talk about the movies I don't like, but not in the context of like attacking the movies themselves or attacking the people who like them because of their how they fared at Oscars season.
Yeah. Like I'll just mention briefly what you told me exactly this. Like when the movie wins, it's nowadays it's the worst that can happen for that movie.
Right.
Because, I don't know if you remember, but before Coda won the Best Picture, it was a great small movie about, like,
Yeah, yeah.
community we don't see many movies about. And everybody, like, everybody before that, so, before the Oscars, who managed to see the movie, loved it. And suddenly it wins the picture. Oh, well, Hallmark movie wins the Best Picture at the Oscars. So that's a fucking success. And I'm like,
Right.
all right, is that all you took from that movie? Cool. And then everything everywhere all at once. Everybody who's seen it before loved it, and then after the Oscars, well, this, now they'll give Oscars to pretty much anything, isn't it? Fucking random movies. And I'm like, I always think of I've seen a tweet, like, about everything everywhere all at once. Just, that simply said, just enjoy it while film bros tell you why it's
Yeah.
the worst movie of all time.
Right. Yeah, with Coda, like when I saw Coda, I was like, that's a sweet little movie.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I don't remember where I put it, but like
Hmm.
I didn't put it maybe in my top 20 or 30 even of the year.
Hmm.
But like I don't think it's a travesty. Like the world isn't ending because it won Best Picture. I
Yep.
I like it for what it is. It doesn't bother me that it won, even though it wasn't close to my favorite movie of the year.
Hmm.
And but on the flip side with Everything Everywhere, like I saw that movie around its initial release,
Hmm.
and I had a very strong emotional reaction to it. I had a lot of fun with it. I loved it.
Hmm.
Um, and this kind of happened with Star Wars too, where it's just like it's gotten so oversaturated and there was so much arguing about it. People were just attacking each other left and right, saying this thing is crap. Why do you like it? It's like no, but just be a rock. And it's just like there's
Yeah.
everything coming, like the title, everything's coming from every direction,
Hmm.
and it just really soured me on the movie when it shouldn't have,
Hmm.
just because I got tired of hearing people talk about it. So I'm looking forward to watching it again like a year from now and
Hmm.
seeing if I can still recapture that feeling that I had outside of the baggage that it carries.
Hmm.
Because I don't, like you said about Coda, like it it's a great movie and it doesn't necessarily deserve to have this baggage attached to it because it won Best Picture.
Hmm.
Um, it's just unfortunate the way that it some oftentimes paints the discussion around movies when it should be instead being like celebrating that Jeffrey Wright is in there after a long career of
Yeah.
great supporting roles. All of a sudden, he's being nominated for Best Actor and has whatever a decent chance of winning.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Actually, I don't know what his chances are because, like I said, I try not to follow it very much. But like the fact that he's in there at all, and we see him on the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable and stuff like that. Let's
Hmm.
celebrate that Jeffrey Wright's in there and Sterling K. Brown has been celebrated as an actor for so long. Let's celebrate that he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor for American Fiction. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it just bugs me that it comes from like a vitriolic state instead of a celebratory. There it is,
Yeah.
celebratory state.
Hmm. No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Well, with that, I think we can move to the underrated part of the podcast.
Sure.
So, Robert, who would you say is the most underrated actor we have right now?
Um, I wrote down a couple,
Okay.
and it's more just because I would like to see these guys in more things. My first one, we don't have to get into the other two if you don't want to, but the first one is Donald Gleason,
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Gleason's son. He was obviously in stuff like Harry Potter and Star Wars, but I think he's great in like Ex Machina and The
Yep.
Revenant, of course, About Time, and then even things like Peter Rabbit. For as much as I hate the main voice actor of that movie,
Yeah.
um, Donald Gleason, he goes from doing something like Ex Machina, which is intense and dark, to doing the silliness of a family movie of Peter Rabbit, and it's just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he really isn't in a lot. He doesn't show up in a lot of stuff, but I think he deserves to be in a lot of stuff because every time that I see him, he's different and he's great. I love that guy.
100% agree. Like I've first, no, I don't know first time, but I've seen him in a Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
watched
that
Black
too.
Mirror,
Yeah, I've
and
seen that one.
he was great with Haley Atwell as well. Just amazing.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if he's not in stuff because he doesn't want to be or just
Mm-hmm.
because people don't cast him or what, but he
Mm-hmm.
definitely deserves
Yeah.
uh acclaim and roles. Another one that I put, if you don't mind,
Sure.
is Christopher Abbott, who I first saw on Girls. Did you ever watch Girls?
No, not yet. No.
It's not necessarily a high recommend. It was one that um I can say this because I don't work at this job anymore, but I used to watch TV during my job, and that may or may not have contributed to why I don't work there anymore.
I
But
see.
but Girls was one of those jobs or one of those shows that I watched while I was, it was somewhat in the background, somewhat I was paying attention to it while I was working.
Mm-hmm.
But he always caught my attention when he's on. And then like now that he shows up and stuff, he shows up in a lot of smaller things. Like it comes at night on the count of three, Blackberry Sanctuary, The Forgiven, stuff like that. And then even movies I haven't seen because I'm too much of a baby, like Possessor. Um, I I've heard that he's great in that, and I might even check it out and put my fears aside
Nice.
just to see him. But yeah, he's great. He's a guy who is a bit of a chameleon, but he's always fun, and he shows up in a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not a lot of big stuff yet, even though he's apparently going to be in Craven later this year. Uh,
Oh,
but that's not necessarily the type of big thing that I want to see him doing. But
yeah.
I hope that maybe his role in Poor Things will, you know, put him on the map a little bit more. But because he always does great work, he's great.
No, he was great in Poor Things. Yeah, just I'm
Hmm.
not as familiar with him, but yeah, I've seen him a couple of tiny things and in Poor Things, obviously, and he was great. So yeah, it's I hope we get to see more of him. Who would
Yeah,
you say is your or who would you say is the most underrated actress we have right now?
I will go with Taylor Russell just because I don't have
Hmm.
too big of a. I don't know if I've seen her in anything but these two movies, but she I think is incredible in Waves and in
Mhm.
Bones and All.
Oh
Have you
yeah,
seen those two?
I haven't seen Waves, but I have seen Bones and All, and she was great in that movie.
Yeah. I genuinely couldn't tell you. Yeah, I'm looking right now.
Hmm.
Those are the only two movies that I've seen her in. And besides those, she's done the escape room movies and then just like other
Yes,
things
I've
I've never
seen
even heard
that.
of.
I was like, is that the girl from Escape? Yes, she is. Yeah.
Hmm.
No, yeah, she was. Escape Room is not. The first one is great. The second one is apparently depending on what cut you watch, because I didn't even know there was a different cut.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, yeah, the first, yeah, it's just all messy. But no, she's actually a reason to watch those movies. Like the first one is fun, but she makes it so much more fun. She is great, and Bones and All, you know. I don't want to be that person, but speaking of snubs, maybe like I could see a
Yeah.
world where she could be nominated for that
Yeah.
performance because she was the heart of that movie, 100%.
Yeah, I like I said, I haven't even seen the escape room movies, but just
Hmm.
based on these two performances in Waves and in Bones and All, I
Hmm.
like we all know Timothy Chalamet is one of the best young actors out there right now.
Yeah.
She did a two-hander with him in Bones and All, but I came away thinking that he was fine
Hmm.
and he's one of my favorites, and
Hmm.
she was just like amazing and otherworldly. So to just like outshine Timothy Chalamet in the most Timothy Chalamet type of movies that could come along, where he's like
Yeah.
a team cannibal lover, tortured teen cannibal lover, uh, like that's quite the achievement.
You
And
could
I
you
would
could
highly recommend Waves, by the way. She's
okay.
amazing in it. Yeah.
All right. It's on my watch list. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to Bones and all, you could almost say she really chewed that scenery.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep. I had to make it a joke. I had yeah, sorry. I
See,
apologize.
that's another one, by the way. I gave that 4.5.
Hmm.
Haven't rewatched it. I finally just got the Blu-ray recently, but when I rewatch it, there's a good chance that'll go up to 5.
Oh, nice. Well, I'll be looking for that like rewatch, on
Sure.
Letterboxd from
Yeah.
Robert. So, who would you say is the most underrated director we have right now?
Um, you know what? Let me just go with Trey Edward Schultz, staying on the Waves theme.
Okay.
He I'm looking at his letterbox. I don't Yeah, there's an upcoming Trey Edward Schultz project starring Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan. I'll
Ooh.
very much look forward to that. But he only has 3 movies so far: Waves,
Mhm.
It Comes at Night, and Krisha. It Comes at Night is my least favorite. Have you
Mhm.
seen those other two? Have you seen
I've
Krisha?
not actually seen any.
Okay.
Hmm.
It Comes at Night, that seems like more of a swing that just didn't quite connect.
Okay.
Um, but it's still solid. Also has Christopher Abbott, who's very good in
Hmm.
that movie.
Nice.
So here's a nice. I didn't mean to, but I'm connecting Christopher Abbott, Taylor Russell, Trey Edward Schultz. And then Krisha is just like about a woman who goes to Thanksgiving dinner with like her estranged family.
Hmm.
Um, and it's one of those kind of anxiety movies, but also doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to be an anxiety movie. A lot
Hmm.
of times you can kind of feel that, but like this one is very natural, and especially because it's something that you can relate to. I know in Scotland you probably don't have Thanksgiving dinner the way Americans have,
No.
but um you
I thought you
can
meant we don't
imagine.
have anxiety here. I was like, wait,
No,
what?
yeah, you don't have anxiety. Your
Happy
mental
country.
health out there is perfect.
Yes.
No, you can relate to just a family get together though, right?
Yes.
Where it's
Hmm.
just like you can understand the
Yeah,
complex
yeah.
dynamics that come from that, especially if there's someone who may or may not be somewhat of an outcast or like the weird one in the family. Um,
You must meet my
and
family. There are a bunch of outcasts there.
everyone. So if that's the case, then I would highly recommend Krisha.
All right.
It's only 81 minutes, and yeah, it gets at an interesting feeling. Um, yeah, Trey Edward Schultz isn't a director that's talked about very much, but I'm always interested to see what he has coming next. He doesn't make movies very often. Waves is the last
Hmm.
one that was 5 years ago now,
Hmm.
but I'm always on the hunt to hear news of his upcoming movies.
Okay, I need to check it out. I need to check him out because yeah, like I've heard a few things about the Waves, and now I've heard more things about those two other movies. So
Yeah.
I'll let me add them to my ever-growing to watch list. That doesn't, it's not getting any shorter.
That's the problem with people like you and me talking to each other
Yep,
is that we're each just going to add things to our watch list and we're going
yep,
to add something to the giant mountain that's never going to be conquered,
exactly. But
even
here,
if we watch
hey,
movies for the next 60 to 70 years.
but it's about the journey, not the
It
destination,
is. It is.
and the friends we make along the way.
Exactly.
Maybe those were the movies we make all the way. No, no, no,
The
no,
real
doesn't
movies were
work.
the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping for. See, damn
Yeah, yeah.
it. Yet again, much more articulate than I could ever hope for. Just, I wonder
This
why.
yeah.
No, I know this one. The next one is difficult, but what do you say one or two underrated movies for you?
I only wrote down one for this one.
Okay.
And I've actually mentioned it twice recently, once
Mm-hmm.
on Letterboxd and once on a podcast that I may actually have edited that brief discussion out of that part of the podcast. But the movie Yesterday,
Ah.
I bring up that movie and say it's underrated, but then people tell me that they like it. But then I
Mm-hmm.
look on Letterboxd and it has like a 2.2 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it still feels underrated. Um, that's an interesting case where I feel like people hold against the movie what it could have been
Yeah.
instead of interacting with what it is.
Yeah.
Because while I completely agree that what it could have been is potentially a more interesting movie,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at what it is, it's a fun rom-com with some of the best music that you could ask for. And its ultimate themes aren't about, just finding your true love and being happy or this and that like you get in every rom-com.
Yep.
It's about honesty and it's about being true to yourself. And that's when you'll, uh, find the person that you are meant to
Hmm.
be with.
Hmm.
Is it bumpy? Sure. Is it uh, a little ham-fisted here and there and a little weird? Sure.
Hmm.
But boy, to me, it's hilarious. It's really heartfelt. It has, like I said, a lot of heart. And I just really, really love watching that movie. I've probably seen it about 5 times now.
Oh, nice.
Um, it's just so good. I even considered putting Danny Boyle as my underrated director, but I think he's too, you know, too high profile to really get that. But like
Hmm.
Danny Boyle, he makes a lot of very solid movies, and
Yes.
his solid movies I think are like more than solid. So that's why where I was thinking with underrated, but
Hmm.
um yeah, I really like Yesterday.
No, yesterday, like I finally watched it last year for the first time,
Hmm.
and I still remember the great trailer with that great premise. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I'm unfortunately, as much as I would love to say I'm not, I am probably one of them. Like it was good. I liked it actually. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. So I
Hmm.
think like I'm not definitely not a hater on. And but just yeah, like what it could have been. It's just, so much more. And again, especially when you think of Danny Boyle and his kind of like cinematic energy, right? Like, he's got this kind of like Slumdog Millionaire, like 28
Right.
days, later, all those movies, they have this energy that cannot be really duplicated. Like there's Danny Boyle doesn't have a style per se, but there's this kind of not a vibe, but almost an energy throughout most of his movies. And I feel like Yesterday did not have that, which or didn't have that kind of Danny Boyle spin on it, even though he was behind the camera, allegedly. So,
Right.
like, it just felt like, but, and also Lily James, I feel like she's kind of wasted in it. Like, I love Lily James, and I feel like she's kind of wasted in that movie, like, maybe a tiny bit. I'm
Well,
not
she's
quite
definitely like the manic pixie dream girl type. Well,
yeah, yeah.
not necessarily the manic part because she just wants
Mhm.
to have a steady life as a school teacher.
Yes.
So maybe the Himesh Patel main character is the manic one, but
Mm.
um, I see where you're coming from, but I would also say that it's just kind of about his journey.
Yeah, yeah.
It's part of an unfortunate, you know, trend, not necessarily trend. It's just like an unfortunate way that movies are, where
Mhm.
the women are just a plot point, and something to help the characterization of the men.
Yes.
Um, but if you look at the movie just in the
If you look at the
context of
men,
itself,
if you
yeah,
look at
if you look at the movie just in the context of itself, I think
no,
it works.
no, yeah.
But not to argue that like it should be that way in all movies or anything like that.
But I'll say to your point, I could see
Hmm.
myself rewatching that movie, and I can see myself like kind of getting more into the, chilled vibes rather than this should have been this. But you know what?
Right.
We've gotten this like nice chill movie about, what if Beatles never existed? So let's just go with that. Yeah. But well, lastly, what is the most underrated TV show we have right now or in the past?
So I don't know how, like, I don't know what your thoughts on this are at all.
Okay.
Um, but this is almost as hot of a, or as dangerous of a subject to bring up
I'm
as Star
intrigued.
Wars. I think The Rings of Power is okay.
Ooh.
Um,
Okay.
and saying that it's okay still says that it's underrated because it like gets crazy hate.
Hmm.
Um, if you're in Lord of the Rings communities online, like
Hmm.
I am,
Hmm.
it's sacrilegious to bring it up as
Uh,
anything positive.
hmm.
It's it drives me crazy, and I've been wanting to talk about it. Even though I do talk about it,
Hmm.
Did you see it?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. What is I don't really know. What do you think of Lord of the Rings just in general?
See, okay, we need to get into this.
Okay.
I hope you're not gonna disconnect as I'm about to tell you something. So if you were to, and I've mentioned this on this podcast, so it's gonna be me talking about this. If you go to Letterboxd and and search for my rating of Lord of the Rings trilogy, you might
Uh-huh.
find a surprising half a star for each movie.
Half
And
a star.
I know, and let me explain. Let me explain.
You better explain. I see that right now. I'm looking.
Exactly. I know. See,
Uh-huh.
I'm not, I can be many things, but I'm not a liar. So,
Okay. You can only be who
so
you are.
exactly. No, here's the thing, and I said this on the
Sure.
podcast many times. I was a very angsty teenager. So when these movies were coming out, right, I would have
Hmm.
been 13, 14. By the time I would see the Return of the King, I think I was like 15. And there was something that just struck me the wrong way. And I think it was the rebellious kind of angsty teen, in me that just, thought it knows better.
You had to go
And
against the grain.
yes, yes, yes. And so I was like, you know what? No, one of the worst movies ever. Zero. And now, you know, 16, 17 years plus to, man in my 30s.
Hmm.
I can look at myself in the mirror and say, yeah, you were fucking just, spewing a lot of bullshit back in the days, and
Uh-huh.
you need to go back and fix it. So it's my goal for this year to actually rewatch all three Lord of the Rings movies. I still haven't even seen the Hobbit movies
Hmm.
because of this, and I want to watch the Hobbit movies too, and just to actually form my opinion. I'm not
Your real
saying
opinion.
exactly. I look, it might not be like not might be my thing, but I'll definitely not, it's not gonna stay half a star. It might
Sure.
not be my thing, but I have a feeling it might be my thing because I love fantasy. I love all the elements. So might well just be like, going from half a star to five, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm so it was so weird. Like I was kind of expecting for somebody from Sitwell to like oust me on our Slack. Like dare you dare like screenshot of my rating, like care to explain yourself, like and that someone being you.
Uh-huh.
I was waiting for it every single day.
you you've had this guilt right
Yes.
on your back for so long.
But again, like I now can reflect, and I'm not afraid to admit I've done something wrong or I've said something wrong. Like I'm so happy the internet wasn't as readily available at the time when I was growing
Uh-huh.
up, because like when I see young kids online, I'm like, you're gonna regret saying this in 10, 15
Sure.
years. And just like because yeah, there's something to be said about, being able to fuck up as you grew up.
Hmm.
Not publicly, not online, not having it all there at all times.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Rings of Power. Because of that reason, I
Gotcha.
haven't gotten around to it. So, but I know you have a complex relationship with that show because I've,
Uh-huh.
heard you talk about it once or twice.
Yeah, my main point that I just wanted to bring up is
Hmm.
like that I keep seeing. It came out like it premiered September of 22, I want to say 2022.
I think so, yeah.
Um, there are so many people who have dismissed it out of hand, just because I don't understand why. I don't
Hmm.
want to contribute. I don't want to attribute it just to racism,
Hmm.
but like it seems like that, and then they racism and misogyny, and then they
Hmm.
make up that everything else is just bad.
Hmm.
Because I know you haven't seen it, but like a lot of the show is just like aggressively solid. Some of it is very good.
Yeah.
Some of it is pretty dumb. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like the original trilogy are my favorite movies of all time, but
Hmm.
like I didn't use that to say like the show is amazing or that the show doesn't live up to the movie, so it's terrible. It's just like
Yeah.
I'm more predisposed to be interested in it because I love Lord of the Rings. Um, but even still, I just thought it was solid.
Hmm.
But the way that people talk about it is just insane, and it drives me crazy because I just want to be able to uh, engage in normal, level-headed discussions about what we did and what we didn't like about the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but that seems impossible because people call it a desecration of Tolkien, and that
Hmm.
it's not. My favorite is that it's not canon, as if the original movies were canon.
Ah, I see.
When all that's canon is the books in the first place. Like my armchair diagnosis is that a lot of people have only invested in Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings stuff, and aren't used to watching just like aggressively average TV shows, and that's basically
Yeah.
what it is. So when
Hmm.
they see an aggressively average TV show, they think that it's the worst thing that they've ever seen,
Hmm.
and they need to just spew that hate unstoppingly online.
Hmm.
So here's just my plea to just say like, hey, let's be normal about this and discuss it like normal people.
Yeah.
Um, and here's like a lot of my takes on this episode is let's stop being annoying in the way that we discuss things online.
Yeah. No, it's again like I've seen what you're talking about, like some of the like racist comments because like there are some like black elves or something like that, I want to say.
That's literally it. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
they cast elves with darker skin and that's it.
I mean, how dare somebody be black in 2024, right? Like
Right.
just the ultimate crime, I guess. Like Black Mermaids, what is next, right?
I yeah. It's not
Just
like because fish actually talk in real life, but black
yes.
mermaids don't exist.
Yeah. It's yeah, I know, but again, like once I rewatch Lord of the Rings and once I
Hmm.
watch for the first time the Hobbit movies, I think I will check out the Rings of Power because again, I think because of my like disconnect in a sense with this franchise, I might be more inclined to actually like it for what it is rather than
Yeah.
because there is something to be said to be following up this one of the most popular trilogies of all time. Many people would even say, like yourself, the best and the most
Yeah.
popular trilogy of all time. So, it's always been like a steep fucking hill to climb on, just to follow up something as successful as that.
Hmm.
And yeah, from Amazon, the company that's, not necessarily the most popular of companies also to be producing this stuff. And
Yeah, but like
yeah.
I get that, but if
Mm,
we apply that logic to one thing, then we have to apply it to I think every studio in
yep,
Hollywood.
yep, yep.
So like why are we praising Apple shows? Like Apple has puts out great shows and great movies, but
Because
why do
people
we
like to be
praise that?
selective. People like to be
Right, but like
selective, isn't
Apple's
it?
just as bad as Amazon in
Yeah.
terms of, all the same stuff.
No, I
So
I
I
get
don't
you.
my thing that this came up on a recent writers room episode is like if I applied that logic
Hmm.
to one thing, I'd have to apply it to all of Hollywood and just not watch anything that Hollywood produces. And I can't
Exactly.
do that. So
No, exactly. Exactly that. Well, Robert, I've been
mhm.
asking you questions for a while, and I'm so appreciative of your time.
Sure.
Let's flip the tables. Do you have any questions for me?
Can I just ask you two questions?
Sure.
One, I notice you talk with your hand a lot.
I know.
And just by doing that, I see your arm.
Oh,
Is that a tattoo on your arm?
yes.
So I'm curious as to what that is.
I don't know if you can see it properly. I don't think you can. It's a s-
Kind of.
it's a skull with the headphones, and it's on fire because the music that the skull is listening to is so fire it burn it alive.
Um, what made you decide to get that tattoo? Do you have other ones too, or like?
I have a second one that's been the first, which has like a
Mhm.
meaning to me. Like I designed it myself. Well, designed it. I used like elements and I just put them together as I liked it.
Sure.
And I always was that kind of person. Again, tattoos should have meanings. And I was like, should I? Can I not just live a nice life just the way I like it? And I just
Hmm.
thought, would it be kind of cool to have a skull that's on a that's have has a headphones and it's the music is so fire that it literally just is on fire because due to
Yeah.
that. I was like, that'd be kind of fun. So I went there and spent quite a lot of money on it. And yeah, like no like look, only about 5 people to this day told me, oh, that's pretty cool. Most people when they see it, it's like, oh, that's a tattoo. Hmm. And it's fine.
Well,
Look, it's fine. I understand. It's not for everybody.
I personally, my thing with tattoos is like I think it would be so cool to get one, and I've like thought about it in the past.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know if I could ever make the commitment to myself to do it.
I was gonna
But
say, don't you live in America, like the freest country ever? Like you have the freedom to do it.
well, I have the freedom to do a lot of stuff, but it doesn't
Yes.
mean I necessarily want to do it. Um, but I kind of respect people in a very
Mhm.
specific way, like you, who can just be like, "That looks cool," and I want to get a tattoo of it. Someone very close to me has a lot of tattoos for that reason, and they're just like,
Yeah.
"I think they look cool, and I'm going to put them on me." And I'm like, "I'm never going to be that kind of person, but more
Hmm.
power to you." So yeah, I was just curious, and that's a
Hmm.
cool one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Um, my other one was
Hmm.
just, what's your hottest movie take?
Hottest movie take. Ooh, damn. Hottest movie. I don't know whether I right now I'm not coming
Hmm.
up with anything. Like I definitely have like
Nothing.
many. Like I look, no, look. Once we end this recording, I'll come up with hundreds. But
You'll
like
have,
right
yeah.
now on a spot, I'm just thinking if there's anything like that
Do we want to open
really.
it wider and say just what's your hottest take in general?
Oh, there's so many. No, there's
What's a
just
hot take that you have that you haven't really talked about too much on a podcast.
Uh, what's the hardest they do? I feel like I kind of brought it up, but I'm more than happy to repeat it. I feel like many people have kind of, how do I put this? I need to word myself carefully. Oh, not carefully. I want to word myself precisely because again, English is not my first language, so I
Sure.
also need to kind of translate. No, I feel like many we've kind of gotten used to the everything is black or white, and
Mm,
there's no nuance. So if you're not against this as much as we are, you're for it. Therefore, you're
hmm
the enemy. Or if you're for this person, that means you support A, B, and C. Like for example, I guess I don't know if it's a hot take, like for movies, I'm 100% in the camp. We have to, not even should, we have to separate art from the artists.
mm,
Otherwise, there's a shit ton of movies and TV shows and music and all the art that's ever been done that we would not be able to enjoy. Like if you go down any rabbit holes, like you can find, dirt on pretty much any single person. Like,
yep.
obviously some dirt is more not okay than others, yes. And yeah, but I feel like and that's the kind of the point. Like, if you enjoyed, like, I don't know, if you enjoy Woody Allen movie, or do you support pedophilia now? Do you support this? What have you done? No, that's no, I support his movies. I don't support him as a person.
Right.
That's the kind of nuanced conversation I feel like people were used to having. And now it's kind of gotten, oh, you know, if you don't support, I don't know, Black Panther for being nominated for a Best Picture, you're racist. I'm like, what? I'm not saying I do, by the way, but I heard takes like that where like people were
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't, where somebody was like, that feels like it shouldn't be there. I was like, oh, you're fucking racist. Why are you such a racist? Why do you hate black people? I was like, does he? Just because, well, like if there's, somebody who only speaks about this, there might be some, element to that, but we should take each other, we should take each other like, slightly more gently when it comes to some of our takes and some, don't look for the worst in people. Try to just, look at everybody like, maybe, just maybe, this is not what he means. Talk to him, ask them what they
Yeah.
mean, right? And specify. And if they specify, and yeah, that person is not a great person, then yeah, feel free to hate them. It's fine. It's fine. You know, I'm not. That might be my hot take. It's fine to have, not hate, but it's fine not to like people. Like because I feel like there's a culture of, oh, only positive vibes, positive energy, no negative energy around here because we fucking hate that. And just, and I feel like, really? Can you be positive all the time? No negative emotions,
Yeah.
ever cross your mind? Like genuinely? That's weird, creepy, and I don't like you. And this is me being negative towards you. So yes, exactly that. So it's just kind of, that kind of, oh guys, and just positive vibes. No, 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 we don't use the word no here, or we don't use, we don't do
Mm.
this here because it's kind of negative. We need to reword this, we need to reshape this. I'm like, really? Do we? So I know I've went all over the place. So if you have any specific questions about any of these, please feel free because I feel like I'm just rambling.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of tied into a couple of my larger takes here.
Okay.
One where we talked about the Oscars, where you
Hmm.
don't have to like attack people for liking
Yeah.
certain things. It doesn't have to be you like this, so you're a bad person, or you
Yeah.
don't like this, so you're dumb because you don't understand it.
Hmm.
And at the same time, if I didn't want to watch Rings of Power because of Amazon, then I'm not going to watch whatever Ted Lasso because of Apple.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You know how many people work on every movie. So
Yep.
there's definitely going to be a bad person in there or someone with something you don't who does something you don't disagree with or you disagree with. So
Or again, like,
like
there are levels, right? So like Harvey Weinstein, right? Like we can both agree, like he
right.
is like irredeemable person, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
However, if you were to say, okay, in that case, we can never watch anything he's produced, well,
I like Good Will Hunting, right?
not
Yeah.
even Good Will Hunting. Like you're shit out of luck for about 90s until 2016. Like because
Yeah.
most a lot of movies have Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, Miramax. And
Lord
like
of the
one of the
Rings has
best.
their names in the credits. Yeah.
Exactly, one of the best movies. So, it's not the movie's fault. They were produced by this not even arguably like irredeemable person. that's
Hmm.
done some fucking awful shit. And yeah, he should be in prison. So like, I don't think that's a
Right.
hot take. But again, it's a hot take. Like, I'm not gonna be, oh yeah, I see his name, I feel funny. Well, I kind of feel like, oh shit, yeah, he produced this as well. Oh well, here we go,
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein. But
But
again,
at the
he
same
was
time, oh,
one
go
of the
ahead.
most powerful producers. Well,
Yeah.
we mentioned it before, Shakespeare in Love. That was Harvey Weinstein making his magic in a bag. Well,
Hmm.
even though now Weinstein making his magic in a bag, it sounds very fucking wrong when I
Oh
just
dear.
think it. No, but he was the fucking reason, like the movie won over Saving Private Ryan, big time. Talk
Hmm.
about like Oscars, how they run. He was the most influential producer for maybe over a decade. Like you can
Yeah.
argue there are several other ones, but he was the loudest. He was the most prominent. So yeah, the dude has amazing movies attached under his name.
At the same time, though, I
Hmm.
wouldn't begrudge people who don't want
Hmm.
to engage with something like I love Midnight in Paris,
Yeah,
the Woody Allen movie,
yeah.
because I like its ideas about nostalgia and being
Hmm.
present, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But if someone looks at everything Woody Allen has done in his life and is like, I just don't feel comfortable watching any movie that he's made, I would be like, I totally get it.
No,
If you
look.
don't want to watch Chinatown or Rosemary's Baby because of
Yeah.
Roman Polanski, like I get it. Um,
No, look. I again,
but
like
like
I.
dismissing all movies or
Mm,
all things out of hand just because
mhm. No, I
it
get it, but I would also tie it in with what you said before. But then, if you actually have these principles and these morals, quote unquote, then if you're gonna stick with them, you're gonna watch pretty much nothing.
yeah.
Because again, like you say, oh, let's talk international movies. Well, France has an issue with some big actors currently, like Gerard Depardieu, you know,
Mhm.
and some and like and there in the female actresses that walked out in this during ceremonies during their
Right.
Oscars because
Yeah.
because people were still being celebrated who shouldn't be and
Hmm.
screaming pedophile. So
Right.
it's kind of like, no matter where you go, no matter where you look, there's always going to be some. So I'm just saying, if you're going to be consistent with, that, fair enough. But you're going to miss out on shit ton of movies and
But it
or
also makes
music.
sense, like if
Mhm.
Woody Allen is the director and the writer, Roman Polanski is the writer and
Yes,
director, you know
yes,
what I mean?
yes.
Or J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Like
Hmm.
if you keep it to just like the creator of the thing or the person whose name comes
Yeah.
up first in the credits, it makes sense instead of
No.
there being like, you know, someone on craft services for this one movie who turned out to be a Nazi or something like that.
Yeah, it's it is crazy. But no, like I understand, like I get it. I get what are you saying. And again, like again, no matter where you skew, like you do you. Just
Hmm.
try to be consistent about your views to an extent, at least. Any other
Yeah, I get
questions?
that. No, because I actually do have to start to
No,
run soon.
it's fine. That's fine. I've taken more than your time. So like I'm so appreciative of you coming here. And
Hmm.
if people, liked what they heard, what's the best place for them to follow you?
You can always follow me on Letterboxd at Robert's Thoughts. Like I said, I feel like I do more qualitative reviews these days than I used to. You
Hmm.
won't get too many stupid jokes if that's not your thing when you're on Letterboxd.
Hmm.
And sifpop.com, Sifpop Writers Room, Sifpop Podcast.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, go check out the community. I think we do a lot of good stuff over there.
And maybe also
Also,
see
and the
podcast.
Also See podcast, yeah. The podcast that I've been hosting for, you know, a few months now at this point,
Yes.
co-hosting.
And it's a great one. It's not just
Yeah,
because I was on it, but it's actually
especially the crank episodes. Yeah.
special. It's gonna be on my. I'm telling you, man. It's gonna be on my tombstone. Fuck's sake. No, but it's been no, Robert. It's been a blast. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you want to follow me, it's always in the movies lost on Letterboxd, austinmovies.co.uk for my blog, and as always, the podcast is part of SPDM Crew's podcast media. Also, big shout out to HiFlyer Creative for designing my logo. To see what else they have happening, visit hiflyercreative.com. So until next time, bye bye.